Chapter 2982. Constellation Horn Demon the Arch and Heart Constellation Demon the Arch had just left the galaxy and landed in the Great Wilderness Domain. They managed to avoid the Crimson Moon storm. The two demonic thearchs frowned and exchanged glances. After a short pause, the two demonic thearchs thought of the same place. They did not turn back and continued to charge toward Wu Dao's original body. They had fought with Dai Yu several times. They had a rough understanding of Dai Yu and Emperor Green Flame's combat power. The Crimson Moon storm was indeed terrifying. However, Emperor Green Flame and the remaining 5 demonic thearchs should be able to hold on for a while. It would not be too late for them to go back and help Emperor Green Flame after they finished off Araki Takashi. After all, the two of them were more than enough to deal with Araki Takashi. They probably would not even need a breath's worth of time. Break! The two of them descended. Constellation Horn Demon the Arch did not transform into his original body. He only held up his perfect world and pressed it down on Wu Dao's purgatory. Rumble! Wu Dao's purgatory had already expended a lot of energy fighting against more than 10 peerless demonic thearchs' worlds. Now, it could not withstand Constellation Horn Demon Thearcha's perfect world at all. It collapsed in an instant and countless flames were extinguished. However, the two of them were still too late. Only Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Rock Demon the Arch were left in Wu Dao's purgatory. The rest were all turned into ashes, their bodies and souls destroyed. Although Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Rock Demon the Arch survived, they were severely injured. Their bodies were charred black and their wings had fallen off. It was a tragic sight. More importantly, the two peerless demonic thearchs' greater success worlds were destroyed by Wu Dao's original body. Without other world fragments and source stones, the two destroyed worlds were extremely difficult to rebuild. Without the protection of their worlds, their combat power would be greatly reduced even if their physical injuries were healed. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Rock Demon the Arch took advantage of Constellation Horn Demon the Arch and Great Rock Demon Thearcha's attacks to escape, panting heavily. The two of them looked at Wu Dao's original body with fear in their eyes. Who would have thought that Araki Takashi would become so powerful after 800 years? Fortunately, Araki Takashi was about to fall. With Constellation Horn Demon Monarch and Heart Constellation Demon Monarch attacking, this Araki Takashi had no chance of surviving. Facing two peak-tier demon emperors, Wu Dao's real body did indeed feel immense pressure. However, his expression was calm and his eyes were calm as he took out the subduing hell cauldron. Lowly human, surrender now. The Constellation Horn Beast Monarch roared as he supported a world to suppress it. Rumble! Within the body of Wu Dao's main body, a loud sound suddenly came, like raging waves beating the shore, the roar of the sea. Behind him, a huge flaming furnace appeared. It looked as if it was going to burst through the heavens and earth. 6 terrifying flaming dragons circled around it. In the blink of an eye, the furnace was burned red. Wu Dao pushed his bloodline to the limit and released his bloodline anomaly. At the same time, he lifted the hell-suppressing cauldron and charged towards the Constellation Horn Demon Monarch. The Heart Constellation Demon Monarch's eyes lit up. To think that this human would have such guts in the face of their attacks. To think that he would even take the initiative to meet them head-on. Hee. The Heart Constellation Demon Monarch laughed charmingly and did not hold back. She supported a world and suppressed it at the same time.
What?
Screech.
What?
4 roars suddenly came from the hell-suppressing cauldron. In the next moment, the 4 saint souls on the 4 sides of the cauldron awakened at the same time, revealing huge figures. They were lifelike and exuded a terrifying aura. Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise. Among them, the Azure Dragon's saint soul appeared. Its eyes were like torches as it stared at the Constellation Horn Demon Monarch opposite it with murderous intent. The Constellation Horn Demon Monarch's expression changed drastically, and his aura weakened. It was not his fault. Although a trace of Azure Dragon bloodline flowed in his body, he was still a flood dragon after all. Facing a real Azure Dragon, he could not help but feel a sense of fear. Bloodline suppression, soul suppression. The Heart Constellation Demon Monarch was also shocked when she saw the 4 saint souls. But soon she reacted and reminded, it's just a few divine soul phantoms. They don't have flesh and blood, so there's nothing to be afraid of. Although she said that, in terms of aura, the difference between the two sides had already increased. Wu Dao's original body roared. The four saint souls surrounded him, and the heaven and earth cauldron appeared indistinctly. He held the hell-suppressing cauldron and smashed it toward the constellation Horn Demon Monarch and the heart constellation Demon Monarch. Boom, 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 boom. The two sides continued to fight, shaking the heavens and earth and causing the void to collapse. In the face of the two peak stage Demon Monarch's attacks, Wu Dao's original body relied on his bloodline avatar, the four saint souls, and the hell-suppressing cauldron. He was not at a disadvantage at all. This was the battle strength of Wu Dao's original body after he became a quasi-emperor. He could even fight against some peak-stage demon monarchs. This Araki Takashi is actually so difficult to deal with? The constellation Horn Demon Monarch frowned, and his face darkened. He originally wanted to suppress Araki Takashi as soon as possible and then go back to help Emperor Qin Yen. But now, he and the Heart Constellation Demon Monarch were being held back by this Araki Takashi and could not advance or retreat. On the other side of the battlefield, Emperor Qin Yen and the others were completely at a disadvantage against Dai Yu's fierce attacks. If Emperor Qin Yen was severely injured because of the two of them, they would definitely be punished when they returned to the heavenly court. Don't hold back. Kill him. The constellation Horn Demon Monarch roared and transformed into his dragon form. His blood essence surged as he roared toward the sky. The Heart Constellation Demon Monarch also realized that the situation was not right and did not dare to be careless. She also transformed into her nine-tailed fox form. The world behind her was filled with endless illusions and charms. The Heart Constellation Demon Monarch stared into the eyes of Wu Dao's original body. But what puzzled her was that her charms did not seem to affect this Araki Takashi at all. This was too strange. Her cultivation level and Dao techniques were clearly above this Araki Takashi's. Even if this person's Dao heart was firm and indestructible, it should not be completely ineffective. In fact, it was not Wu Dao's original body that dispelled Heart Constellation Demon Monarch's charms. It was the white jade pendant that the evil emperor gave him. With the jade pendant in his possession, these illusions and seductive Dao arts were completely ineffective against him. Even if they could not charm Wu Dao's original body, the two-peak demon monarch's attacks became even more ferocious after they transformed into their original bodies. The pressure on Wu Dao's original body increased sharply. The heaven and earth furnace that he formed also started to shake. The flames flickered and the 6 fire dragons were suppressed. If this continued, the heaven and earth furnace would collapse at any time. At this moment, Wu Dao's original body's eyes lit up. He released his secret technique again. 2 huge doors appeared behind him and suppressed the constellation Horn Demon Monarch and the Heart Constellation Demon Monarch. One of the doors was filled with demonic aura and black hellfire. Countless pale palms reached out from the door. Shrill cries of ghosts could be heard from within. Door of Avicii. The other door was filled with Yin energy and was covered with frost. The moment it descended, the surrounding temperature plummeted. This was another secret technique that Wu Dao's original body cultivated with the help of the Cold Spring chapter of the 9 Springs Hell Sutra during his seclusion. Door of Frost Hell. Chapter 2983. When the door of Avicii descended, the surging Avicii demonic chi and hellfire caused a huge impact on the Heart Constellation Demon Thearka's charm world. Pale palms reached out from the charm world and tried to grab the Heart Constellation Demon Thearka's body. They even wanted to drag her into the Avicii hell. The Heart Constellation Demon Thearka's face paled when she saw the palms grabbing and touching her. She screamed and waved her 9 fox tails to block them. With the door of Avicii, Wu Dao's original body immediately turned the situation around and gained the upper hand. On the other side, the door of Frost Hell pressed down on the constellation Horn Demon the Arch. Break! The constellation Horn Demon the Arch stretched out his dragon body and roared. His bloodline surged as he supported a world and slammed it against the huge, cold door. Boom! The collision between the two resulted in a deafening explosion. Roar! The constellation Horn Demon, the Arch, screamed. Not only did he fail to move the door of Frost Hell, but he was also suppressed. A 1,000-foot-long dragon kept struggling under the door of Frost Hell. Its body was covered in blood and dragon scales were falling off. It seemed to be in great pain. The heart constellation demon Thearka's expression changed drastically. The situation was not right. Without the two of them in the astral battlefield outside the great wilderness domain, Emperor Azure Flame was completely suppressed by the blood butterfly. Now, not only were they unable to kill this Araki Takashi, but the constellation Horn Demon the Arch was severely injured. The situation was critical. What technique was that? Why was the constellation Horn Demon the Arch in so much pain? This scene surprised even Wu Dao's original body. The door of Frost Hell and the door of Avicii each had their own strengths, but in terms of Dao techniques, they were similar. If the door of Avicii could not injure the heart constellation demon the Arch, why was the door of Frost Hell so destructive? The martial Dao body's eyes narrowed as he noticed the frost covering the door of the frozen hell. He immediately thought of the reason. The door of Frost Hell was a secret technique he cultivated with the help of the 9 Springs Hell Sutra's Cold Spring chapter. The frost on it was actually formed by the cold spring of hell. The 9 springs of hell contained different kinds of strange powers. The hell's cold spring was the coldest water in the world. It was extremely harmful to any living being, especially to the demonic beasts in the water. The damage it caused was the most obvious, and its lethality was the greatest. Although dragons were also a branch of dragons, they mainly roamed the rivers and stirred up trouble. That was why the door of Frost Hell was able to cause such obvious damage to the constellation Horn Demon Emperor. Even the constellation Horn Monster Monarch's perfected world couldn't withstand the frost on the door of Frost Hell and could collapse at any moment. Without the protection of a world, the constellation Horn Beast Monarch was even more vulnerable to the door of Frost Hell. Not to mention, behind the gates of Frost Hell, there was still Wu Dao's true body, surrounded by the heaven and earth furnace, and holding the hell-suppressing cauldron in his hand. Dragon Emperor Huanghai and Great Pring Demon Monarch, who had just escaped with their lives, were dumbfounded. How could they have known that this Araki Takashi had barely managed to kill a peerless demon emperor 800 years ago? And now, he had the upper hand against 2 of the 7 constellations' demon emperors. On the astral battlefield, young master, the situation isn't good. Constellation Horn and Heart Constellation are in trouble. Let's retreat first. What's going on? Didn't they say that Araki Takashi is at most a peerless demon emperor? I'm not sure. Emperor Azure Flame's expression darkened. This battle was worse than before. Although both sides had been injured in the previous battle with Daiyu, he and the 7 constellations' demon emperors had the upper hand. Now, Daiyu wasn't seriously injured, but their worlds were already damaged. If they continued, their lives would be in danger. Retreat! Emperor Azure Flame shouted and released a secret technique. More than a dozen 1,000-foot-long azure dragons burst out of his body and coiled around the 2 red moons in the sky. The azure dragons temporarily blocked the red moons against the blood-red moonlight. The howling storm around them weakened slightly. Emperor Azure Flame and the others finally had a chance to catch their breath and retreated. At the same time, Constellation Horn and Heart Constellation Demon Emperors also heard Emperor Azure Flame's voice and prepared to retreat. Constellation Horn Demon Emperor pushed his essence spirit to its limits. His blood chi surged and his world power surged, trying to create a space to escape. Trying to escape? Wu Dao's true body's eyes shone brightly. He descended from the sky with the hell-suppressing cauldron and stepped heavily on the struggling dragon head of Constellation Horn Demon Emperor. The heaven and earth cauldron and door of the frost hell pressed down at the same time. Crack, 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 crack. Cracks appeared on Constellation Horn Demon Emperor's perfected world and spread rapidly. Constellation Horn Demon Emperor's body was also stepped on by Wu Dao's true body. He struggled with all his might and roared, trying to escape. Boom! Without a word, Wu Dao's true body raised the hell-suppressing cauldron and smashed it down on Constellation Horn Demon Emperor's head. In just one hit, his flesh was lacerated and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The constellation horn demon, the arch, let out a sorrowful cry as he struggled less vigorously. Wu Dao's true body raised his brows slightly. As expected of a peak imperial emperor, he used all his strength and smashed down with the hell-suppressing cauldron, but still failed to kill him. Heart Constellation Demon Emperor was enraged when she saw this scene. She shouted, "Araki Takashi, how dare you!" Heart Constellation Demon Emperor unleashed all her strength and pushed her essence spirit to the limit. She activated her charm world and bounced off the door of Avicii. She rushed towards Wu Dao's true body, trying to save Constellation Horn Demon Emperor. Just one door of Avicii was not enough to suppress a peak demon emperor's perfected world. Just in time. Wu Dao's true body sneered. He was still stepping on Constellation Horn Demon Emperor, holding the hell-suppressing cauldron in one hand and releasing a mystic technique with the other. Door of Hell, condense. Boom. A huge sinister door appeared in mid-air and descended from the sky, suppressing Heart Constellation Demon Emperor. Before Wu Dao's true body left the infernal court, he went to the Cold Spring Prison and Bitter Spring Prison. He saw the Cold Spring and Bitter Spring Prison in the Nine Springs Hell Sutra. Therefore, he cultivated two mystic techniques in this seclusion, the Door of Hell and the Door of Hell. The Bitter Spring of Hell was very lethal to the ghost race. Although the Door of Hell did not cause any additional damage to the fox race, it was still a powerful and terrifying technique. One door of Avicii was not enough to suppress Heart Constellation Demon Emperor. With another door of Hell, the situation was different. The two doors descended. Heart Constellation Demon Emperor's expression changed. She was panicking and could only barely resist. She could not even protect herself, let alone save Constellation Horn Demon Emperor. Although Emperor Qin Yan and the others had a chance to catch their breath, they were still locked on by Daiyu. They could not spare time to save the two of them. They could only rely on themselves. Heart Constellation Demon Emperor's face was pale. Araki Takashi stepped on Heart Constellation Demon Emperor expressionlessly. He only raised the hell-suppressing cauldron and smashed it on Constellation Horn Demon Emperor's head. Every time, blood splattered, bones and flesh were sent flying. Constellation Horn Demon Emperor did not make a sound. He was on the verge of death. When Constellation Horn Demon Emperor died, Araki Takashi would definitely turn around and deal with her. End of chapter. Chapter 2984. She could no longer care about the Constellation Horn Demon the Arch. She was already very lucky to be able to escape. The Heart Constellation Demon the Arch screamed and released a mystic technique. The 9 foxtails behind her swelled rapidly. Immediately after, one of the blood-red foxtails suddenly broke, spewing out endless blood mist that dyed half the sky of the great wilderness domain red. This was the blood of a peak demon the Arch. On the battlefield below, billions of living beings subconsciously looked up and were shocked by this scene. A 10,000 feet long flood dragon was being stepped on by a seemingly tiny purple-robed figure. It was already smashed beyond recognition and twitched weakly. Another 9-tailed fox was being suppressed by 2 huge doors and had to break one of its tails. The billions of demon race soldiers were already thinking of retreating. Some had even started to retreat. They could clearly see that Emperor Qin Yan was retreating outside the Great Wilderness Domain. On the battlefield of the Great Wilderness Domain, Araki Takashi had killed more than 10 peerless demon thearchs. He was simply invincible and could suppress everything. The Heart Constellation Demon the Arch used a mystic technique to break one of her tails. Finally, she managed to break free from the 2 doors and fled in the direction of Emperor Qin Yan and the others. Araki Takashi, listen carefully. I'll avenge my tail in the future. The Heart Constellation Demon Thearcha's voice was sharp and piercing. It was no longer as gentle as before and was filled with resentment and hatred. Wu Dao's real body did not answer. He only looked at her coldly and used his strength again to lift the prison's suppressing cauldron and smash it down on the Constellation Horn Demon the Arch. Boom! This time, the top of the Constellation Horn Demon Thearcha's head was smashed and a huge bloody hole appeared. The Constellation Horn Demon Thearcha's essence spirit was also shattered into pieces. One of the 7 Constellation Demon Thearchs, the Constellation Horn Demon the Arch, died on the spot. The heart constellation demon, the Arch, wanted to escape, but Wu Dao's real body did not intend to let her go. Wu Dao's real body carried the constellation horn demon Thearka's huge dragon corpse in one hand and the prison's suppressing cauldron in the other. His black hair danced and his eyes burned with purple flames. He stepped into the air and chased after the heart constellation demon, the Arch. Emperor Qin Yen, the remaining 6-7 constellations monarchs, and even Dai Yu looked in their direction as they sensed something. The scene was too shocking. Wu Dao's real body had just killed a peak-tier demon, the Arch, and it was one of the 7 constellations demon Thearchs. Now, he was carrying a 1,000-feet-long flood dragon's body and charging over. His aura was too powerful. The faces of Emperor Qin Yen and the others turned extremely ugly. They had fought with Dai Yu many times. Although they returned with injuries every time, their lives were never in danger. Who would have thought that he would actually suffer such a huge setback today? This time, not only did he fail to severely injure Dai Yu, he even lost the constellation Horn Demon Emperor in the Great Wilderness. Boom! Monarch Blue Flame used a secret technique and pointed at the sky above his head. A huge crack instantly appeared above him, emitting rays of light. The multicolored light landed on Emperor Qin Yen and the others, enveloping them and quickly flying towards the crack in the starry sky. Wu Dao's true body's aura was at its peak. After arriving at this place, he didn't hesitate to soar into the air. "Stop chasing." Dai Yu's voice rang in his mind. Confusion flashed through the martial Dao body's mind. He and Dai Yu clearly had the upper hand. The enemy had lost a member. This was the best time to chase after them. Why would they let them go? Before he could figure it out, he felt a huge pressure coming through the crack in the starry sky. He couldn't block it at all. Wu Dao's true body frowned. He slowly descended to Dai Yu's side. 2 figures also soared into the sky and chased after Emperor Qin Yen and the others. They were Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch, who had just escaped death. "Lord Blue Flame, bring me along." Dragon Emperor Huang Hai shouted as he chased. "I'm only 1 step away from reaching the great circle of the martial emperor realm. As long as I have enough cultivation resources." Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch had chosen to side with Tsang not only because of Tsang's strength. Both of them had guessed that behind Emperor Qin Yen, there might be an unimaginably huge force. Tsang might just be the tip of the iceberg. This faction's strength was unfathomable, and they had an endless supply of cultivation resources. They had submitted to Tsang partly because they hoped to get a chance to truly join Tsang and that powerful force. However, they had just submitted and hadn't done anything yet. Naturally, they couldn't ask Emperor Qin Yen for help. But if they didn't ask now, they wouldn't have the chance anymore. Emperor Qin Yen and the others left again. They didn't dare to face Dai Yu or Araki Takashi in the vast wilderness. Desolate Martial's earlier methods had already frightened the 2 of them completely. Moreover, this might be a better chance. Constellation Horn Demon the Arch, one of the 7 constellation demon Thearchs, had died. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai was also a dragon. He couldn't think of anyone more suitable for this position. Emperor Qin Yen stood in the crack in the starry sky and looked down at Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch who were flying over. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch were chasing after them. They didn't notice Emperor Qin Yen and the others' gazes. Those gazes were extremely cold. Some of the 7 constellation demon Thearchs looked at Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch with murderous intent. If the 2 of them had not lied about the military intelligence and said that Desolate Martial was nothing to fear, perhaps the Dragon Emperor would not have died in the grand desolate world. But Emperor Qin Yen suddenly spoke and slashed downwards. 2 rays of light fell from the sky and cut Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch in half. Blood dyed the starry sky. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon the Arch fell slowly. They looked at the figures in the starry sky that were getting further and further away. Their eyes were filled with confusion and doubt. "But I've already submitted. 2 ants, do you think you're worthy of following me?" Emperor Qin Yan's voice was filled with anger. Constellation Horn Demon the Arch had just died and Emperor Qin Yen had suffered a great loss. He had nowhere to vent his anger. These two were simply courting death. Hearing this, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Demon Monarch Dapeng recalled the last words Dai Yu had said to them before they broke off their relationship with her. Qin Yen has a special background and a powerful bloodline. He sees all living things as ants. You may be dragons, but you're no different to him. Song might not be a good home for you. Be careful in the future. The two didn't think much of it and didn't take it to heart. They didn't expect it to come true today. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Pring Demon Thearka's primordial spirits started to disperse. The two of them turned their heads and looked in Dai Yu's direction. Their eyes were filled with guilt, regret, and self-blame. Unfortunately, it was all too late. When Dai Yu saw this, she couldn't help but lower her eyes and sigh. After all, these two had followed her for many years. Although they had broken up, she couldn't help but sigh when she saw them end up like this. End of chapter. Chapter 2985. The huge crack in the starry sky was slowly healing. Monarch Qin Yen looked down at Dai Yu, shook his head and said, "Shui Dai, I wanted to keep you alive to train your cultivation and strengthen your bloodline. But next time, I won't give you another chance." Then, Emperor Qin Yen looked at Wu Dao's true body and the huge dragon corpse in his hand. He clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. That's because Desolate Marshal has caused a calamity. He's going to bring calamity to the eastern wilderness. The next time I come to the great wilderness, I will show you our true strength. I will kill this person with my own hands and slaughter all the creatures in the eastern wilderness. I will use the blood of billions of creatures in the eastern wilderness as a sacrifice to the soul of the Mansion of the Horn. His voice was like thunder, spreading to every corner of the great wilderness. No one doubted Emperor Qin Yan's words, because many people knew that Song's strength was not limited to this. Fear and worry appeared on most of the eastern wilderness people's faces. Some creatures even looked at Wu Dao's true body with complicated expressions. In just a few words, Emperor Qin Yen put all the pressure on Wu Dao's true body. He was telling everyone that the culprit behind the destruction of the eastern wilderness and the deaths of billions of creatures was Araki Takashi. Wu Dao's true body was not relaxed either. Emperor Qin Yan's true body was most likely the heavenly court, the terrifying force that had destroyed several epochs and buried many emperors. No one could deal with such a powerful force calmly. At this moment, Dai Yu suddenly stretched out her hand and held his hand, holding it gently. Wu Dao's true body looked at her. Dai Yu also turned her head. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. In an instant, Wu Dao's true body felt lighter. All the pressure disappeared. At this moment, the two of them stood side by side as if they could face any enemy, even the legendary heavenly court. Wu Dao's true body looked up to the sky and shouted, "Qin Yen, if you dare to come to the great wilderness again, this flood dragon will be your end." As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Dao stomped heavily on the ground, causing flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. With a loud crack, the constellation Horn Demon Thearka's corpse was trampled into two. Roar! The 6 beasts under the 7 constellations monarch beast uttered furious roars. Emperor Blue Flame's face was livid. If it weren't for his injuries, he would have immediately gone down and torn that Araki Takashi into pieces. But he knew that now was not the best time. Good, good, good. Emperor Qin Yen was so angry that he laughed and applauded. It had been a long time since someone dared to provoke him like this. This sort of feeling even caused him to feel a trace of freshness and excitement. Emperor Qin Yen grinned and said slowly, "I will definitely come to the great wilderness again. It won't be long. That will be the end of the eastern wilderness, the end of all you ants." The crack in the starry sky had completely closed, and Emperor Qin Yen and the others had disappeared. Only Emperor Qin Yan's voice was still echoing in the Great Wasteland domain. Although the Eastern Barren Territory had won this battle again, Emperor Blue Flame's last words still made the Eastern Barren Territory's creatures feel gloomy. No one knew when Emperor Qin Yen would come again. No one knew what would happen the next time Emperor Qin Yen came. No one knew if Dai Yu and Araki Takashi could stop him. Wu Dao's true body looked in the direction where Emperor Qin Yen and the others had disappeared and murmured, they might have returned to the heavenly court. What's with that powerful pressure? I'm not sure. Dai Yu shook her head and said, I tried, but I couldn't break in at all. After the battle ended, the generals of the Eastern Wilderness cleaned up the battlefield. Wu Dao's true body had gained a lot from this battle. He had obtained the greater success worlds of more than 10 peerless demon emperors. Unfortunately, half of the horned demon emperor's world had been devoured by the door of frost hell in the battle. It had fallen into hell. The door of frost hell not only had strong killing power, but it could also connect to hell. The door of frost hell's existence was equivalent to building a portal to hell in Wu Dao's true body's domain. Dai Yu gave some simple instructions and returned to Butterfly Valley with Wu Dao's true body. They both knew that although they had defeated Emperor Qing Yan and the others and killed one of the 7 constellations' demon emperors, it was nothing to be happy about. The next battle was the one that would determine the survival of the Eastern Wilderness. Wu Dao's true body pondered and said, according to Emperor Qing Yan, he might come back soon. Dai Yu nodded and said, he and the 7 constellations' demon emperors were heavily injured. It will take them a few hundred years to fully recover. Fortunately, you helped me stall the 2 peak-stage demon emperors in this battle. My world isn't that badly damaged. It will recover after some rest. At this point, both of them fell silent. After a long while, Wu Dao's true body said slowly, the next time Emperor Qing Yan comes, the 2 of us won't be able to stop him. In fact, both of them were well aware of this point. Song's strength was definitely not just limited to Emperor Qing Yan and the 7 constellations' demon emperors. Since Emperor Qing Yan had said so, the next time he descended on the Great Wilderness, it would be with an army. As long as there were 2 peak-stage experts like Emperor Qing Yan, Dai Yu would not be able to stop them. If there were a few more peak-stage emperors like the 7 constellations' demon emperors, Dai Yu and Wu Dao's true body together would not be able to stop them. No matter how strong a peak-stage emperor was, there was a limit. Dai Yu was silent. After a while, she said, I'm afraid we will only be able to resolve the next crisis if we become a great emperor. Otherwise, although that was the case, it was not that easy to become a great emperor. Since the beginning of time, in the endless river of time, countless talented geniuses had emerged. However, only a few of them had become emperors in the end. Wu Dao's true body thought for a while and said, if I want to improve my cultivation level, I might have to leave the Great Wilderness for a while. Dai Yu agreed without hesitation. She did not ask where Wu Dao's true body was going. Actually, it was easy to make the connection if he chose to leave the Great Wilderness now. After all, the next time Emperor Qing Yan came, the Great Wilderness would be destroyed. It was normal to choose to escape due to fear. However, Dai Yu had never doubted Su Zimo. On one hand, she knew Su Zimo's Dao. On the other hand, she trusted Su Zimo. Aren't you curious where I'm going? Wu Dao's true body asked with a smile, aren't you afraid that I won't come back? How dare you? Dai Yu narrowed her eyes. Wu Dao's true body smiled and said, before I leave, I have a sutra to read to you. It should help you. Sutra? Dai Yu raised her brows. Wu Dao's true body nodded and told Dai Yu about the 600-word Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. In fact, he did not only have the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra, but also many other taboo sutras. However, the inheritance of taboo sutras was too complicated. Unless one saw the first version of the taboo sutra with their own eyes, they would not be able to understand its essence. Even if Wu Dao's true body told Dai Yu about the taboo sutra, she would not be able to learn anything. It would be like listening to a heavenly book. For example, the Sky-Burying Sutra was printed on a stone tablet. Not only were there the sutras of the Sky-Burying Sutra, but there were also the Tao techniques and Tao rhymes of the Sky-Burying Sutra. One could only cultivate it by seeing it with their own eyes. Otherwise, the Taboo Sutra would have spread throughout the 3,000 worlds and would not be so rare and precious. End of chapter. Chapter 2986. For the next 10 years, Wu Dao's original body stayed in the Butterfly Valley, teaching the Yin-Yang rune scripture while discussing Tao techniques with Dai Yu. Although Wu Dao's original body had not stepped into the Emperor realm, his Tao techniques were unique and had refined countless secret techniques and scriptures. He had his own unique understanding of many Tao techniques. When the two of them discussed the Tao, they both gained something from each other. However, Wu Dao's original body was still a little short of stepping into the emperor realm. Dai Yu also did not sense any opportunity to become a great emperor. She could feel that she was getting closer and closer to the threshold of the great emperor realm, but she still could not find a way to truly step into it. 10 years later, Wu Dao's original body was ready to leave. If he continued to cultivate in the vast wilderness, it would be difficult to step into the emperor realm in hundreds of years. You're going to hell? Dai Yu was slightly surprised to hear Wu Dao's original body's plan. Wu Dao's original body had mentioned his identity as the Lord of Hell to Dai Yu. However, he had always been cautious about this identity. Thinking back to the day when he fell into hell, everything was pushed by the tomb keeper. Wu Dao's original body did not want to be bound by an identity. Wu Dao body explained, "There is a taboo secret manual in the infernal court, the 9 springs scripture of hell. I have cultivated 2 parts of it. If I can refine this taboo secret manual, I should have a chance to step into the imperial realm." "Do you want to go to a Vichy hell again?" Dai Yu asked. "No need." Wu Dao's original body activated his primordial spirit, and with a thought, a huge door with dense yin qi appeared behind him, the door of Frost Hell. "This door is connected to hell. I can return to the infernal court at any time." The infernal court. Since the new Lord of Hell left, the infernal court returned to a short period of peace. Cold Spring Hellmaster was killed by the new Hellmaster. In the battle at Fengdu City, 7 of the remaining 8 Hellmasters died, including 2 quasi-emperor Hellmasters. Only the old Hellmaster Ku Quan was lucky enough to survive. Although many of the infernal realm's creatures didn't approve of this Lord of Hell, they didn't dare to raise any objections. His methods were thunderous and iron-blooded, and he also had the Netherworld treasure mirror. After all, he was an outsider. Many Earth prison creatures, especially the Nether race in Earth prison, were strongly against him. After Wu Dao's true body left, the 9 hells temporarily revered the prison concubine as their mistress. Regarding this prison concubine, many of the infernal realm's living beings still had many criticisms in private. Firstly, this hell concubine's cultivation level was too low. She had only just become a Netherworld general. The Netherworld general was the true one realm in the heaven realm. Secondly, the Lord of Hell had left and hadn't shown himself for a long time. This hell concubine had the fundamental formula of the Hell Sutra of the 9 springs, so it was easy for others to covet it. However, the hell concubine was guarded by Hell Master Ku Quan. Even if the hell concubine was disloyal, they wouldn't dare to act rashly. Although Hell Overlord Ku Quan was old, he was still a quasi-emperor. From a certain point of view, after Wu Dao's true body left, the infernal court had always been in a state of being without a leader. Although many infernal realms' living beings revered Princess Yufei as their mistress, Princess Yufei's cultivation level wasn't high. It was difficult for her to suppress the many vicious and bloodthirsty infernal realms' living beings. Fortunately, with Hell Overlord Ku Quan and Hell Overlord Cold Spring guarding her, she was safe for a period of time. However, as time passed, Wu Dao's true body still hadn't returned. There wasn't even any news about him. Gradually, there were some waves in the infernal court. Of course, Hell Overlord Ku Quan and Hell Overlord Cold Spring were enough to deal with these situations and stabilize the situation. However, 10 years ago, the peace of the infernal court was completely broken. For some reason, pieces of world fragments suddenly fell from the infernal court. And they were perfected world fragments. The Hell Kings and Nether Kings of the infernal court couldn't break through due to the shattering of heaven and earth and their incomplete laws. It was even difficult for them to touch the quasi-emperor realm. These Hell Kings and Nether Kings had been stuck in the perfected Grotto Heaven realm for a long time. As long as they were given the slightest opportunity, they would be able to grasp it and quickly break through. As for the Hell Kings and Netherworld Kings, the falling fragments of perfect worlds were simply a heaven-sent opportunity for them. After these perfected world fragments fell, it instantly set off a bloody storm. In the end, they were divided up by dozens of Hell Kings and Nether Kings. Hell Overlord Cold Spring, Tang Kong, also obtained a perfected world fragment with the help of Hell Overlord Ku Quan. In just a few years, these Hell Kings and Nether Kings who obtained the world fragments had all broken through and became quasi-emperors. In the 9 levels of Hell, other than Hell Overlord Ku Quan and Cold Spring Prison, the Hell Overlords of the other 7 levels of Hell had changed again after countless battles. In the end, the 7 Hell Overlords finally set their eyes on Princess Yufei. In fact, before Wu Dao's true body left that day, Hell Overlord Ku Quan had told him, "The creatures of the infernal court were ferocious and bloodthirsty. Once you leave, you will be like a headless dragon. It is very likely that you will fall into chaos and endanger Princess Yufei." However, even Hell Overlord Ku Quan did not expect this calamity to come so soon. Originally, he thought that as long as he was alive, he could at least protect Princess Yufei's safety. But he did not expect that the many world fragments that fell 10 years ago would immediately break the balance of power in the infernal court, and dozens of quasi-emperors emerged. Hell Overlord Ku Quan sensed that the situation was not good. He immediately escorted Princess Yufei out of Black Spring City and went straight to Cold Spring Prison. There were only 2 people by Princess Yufei's side, Hell Overlord Ku Quan and Tang Kong, who were completely trustworthy. Tang Kong was able to take the position of Hell Overlord Ku Quan because of Wu Dao's true body. The flames of war continued to spread and soon reached Cold Spring Prison. Hell Overlord Ku Quan and Cold Spring Prison could not resist the Hell Coalition army formed by the 7 Hell Overlords. They were defeated and retreated all the way to Cold Spring Grand Hall. Chapter 2987. Ah! Tang Kong sneered. "Back in Fengdu City, my master had the Netherworld treasure mirror and all of you bowed to him. Who dared to oppose him? My master has only left for a short while and all of you can't wait to jump out. Aren't you afraid that my master will kill all of you when he returns?" The 7 Hell Masters and the Boundary Emperors all changed their expressions when they heard this. In their hearts, they were still somewhat fearful of the new Lord of Hell. After a moment of silence, Hell Master Ku Quan laughed and said, "There has been no news of him for so many years. I guess he must have died in the middle world. He's just a dead man. What's there to be afraid of? Tang Kong, Ku Quan, don't try to stall for time. If you don't get out of the way, we'll give the order to kill without mercy." Perhaps Tang Kong's words had caused the 7 Hell Masters to panic. They did not want to drag this out for fear of any unexpected changes. At this moment, the door of the main hall slowly opened. Princess Yufei walked out from inside. The eyes of the hundreds of millions of Hell beings lit up when they saw Princess Yufei. Princess Yufei looked thinner and more haggard, but she was still stunning and instantly attracted countless gazes. Over the years, because she had mastered the Hell Sutra of the 9 Springs, her cultivation speed had been extremely fast. Although she had not become a Netherworld king, she had cultivated to the peak of the Netherworld general realm. "Mistress, why have you come out?" Wu Dao's original body had saved Tang Kong before. Even in the face of Princess Yufei, whose cultivation level was far lower than his, Tang Kong was still extremely respectful. "Thank you for protecting me all these years." Princess Yufei bowed deeply to Hell Master Ku Quan and Tang Kong. If not for these 2, she would not have been able to survive until today. Princess Yufei said, "The person they want is me. The 2 of you don't have to sacrifice your lives for me." Tang Kong was about to speak when Princess Yufei used her divine consciousness to say, "Escape. You must survive. I believe he will come back. Someone has to tell him about today's matter." Tang Kong was silent. Bitter Spring Prison Lord smiled bitterly. "Tang Kong, you should go. I don't have much time left. I'll stay here and accompany Mistress on her last journey." Seeing that Princess Yufei was willing to come out, Hell Lord Hong Quan was naturally overjoyed. He looked at Princess Yufei and said softly, "You don't have to be afraid. As long as you obey me, when I become the Lord of Hell, you will still be the matriarch of Hell. You will never become the Lord of Hell." Princess Yufei shook her head and said, "There is only one master of Hell. He's dead." Hell Master Hong Quan's face darkened as he said coldly. Spring Hell Master sneered and said, "Even if he's not dead, he won't be able to stop us." That day in Fengdu City, he gave it his all and only managed to kill 2 quasi-emperors. He was beaten to the point of vomiting blood. In the end, he had to use the underworld treasure mirror to stabilize the situation. Now, we have 20 quasi-emperors. If he dares to return, he will definitely die. Even the underworld treasure mirror will not be able to protect him. Rumble. A loud noise suddenly came from the depths of the cold spring hall, and the entire hell shook. Hundreds of millions of hell beings gathered in the square, and it was originally noisy. But at this moment, everyone held their breath and looked in the direction of the sound. Even the 7 Hell Masters and more than a dozen quasi-emperors frowned as they stared at the depths of the cold spring hall, as if they wanted to see through the situation inside. However, although the door of the hall was open, it was dark inside. There was a powerful force that blocked everyone's vision and divine sense. Before anyone could react, the sound of footsteps could be heard in the hall. It came from afar and soon arrived at the entrance of the hall. Under countless gazes, a man in a purple robe, with a head of black hair and a silver mask walked out. The Lord of Hell. After a brief silence, there was an uproar in the sky and on the ground. Even the quasi-emperors in the air were shocked. Their eyes flickered, and their expressions were uncertain. Tang Kong, Hell Master Ku Quan, and the others were in high spirits, and they were overjoyed. Princess Yufei looked at the familiar figure not far away. Her eyes were a little red, but she only pursed her lips and did not say a word. Wu Dao's appearance immediately suppressed the aura of the army of hundreds of millions of hell beings. Hell Master Ku Quan was the first to react. If this continued, they would be defeated without a fight. Hell Master Ku Quan suddenly said in a low voice, "This person is not the Lord of Hell. He is only wearing a mask and pretending to be the Lord of Hell." No one knew what the Lord of Hell looked like except for Princess Yufei. Hell Master Ku Quan's clever move was that even if the Lord of Hell in front of them was real, there was no way to explain. Even if Wu Dao took off his mask, no one would recognize him. He could have confidently declared that the Lord of Hell was a fake. Hell Master Ku Quan was also a little skeptical. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? He had just said that he would kill the Lord of Hell, and the Lord of Hell had appeared. He only understood when he heard Hell Master Ku Quan's words. Regardless of whether the Lord of Hell in front of them was real or fake, they had to kill him first to prevent future troubles. Hell Master Ku Quan said in a low voice, "Everyone, let's attack together and kill this fake Lord of Hell." Hell Master Ku Quan's words dispelled the concerns of many hell beings. They would inevitably be wary if they were to attack the Lord of Hell. However, if they were to attack a fake Lord of Hell, they would have no qualms. In the face of the murderous boundary emperors, the Lord of Hell who had suddenly appeared seemed extremely calm. He did not take them to heart at all. Instead, he chatted casually with Princess Yufei. "Why are there so many boundary emperors?" Wu Dao asked. Before he left, Hell Master Ku Quan was the only boundary emperor left. However, there were 20 of them in front of him. There were more than 30 boundary emperors lurking nearby. Princess Yufei briefly explained the situation of the many world fragments that had fallen into hell 10 years ago. 10 years ago? Perfect world fragments? Wu Dao raised his eyebrows slightly. He thought for a moment and understood the reason. Those perfect world fragments from 10 years ago should have been the constellation Horned Demon Emperor who had died in his hands. At that time, the door of Frost Hell had swallowed more than half of the constellation Horned Demon Emperor's perfect world. Although Wu Dao had cultivated the door of Frost Hell, he had not cultivated to the point where he could control things that fell into the door of Frost Hell. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to it. He did not expect that these world fragments would instead create the Hell Kings and Underworld Kings of Hell. The two of them had only exchanged a few words when the 7 Hell Masters and more than a dozen Boundary Emperors had already arrived. They all released their Boundary Emperor's grotto heavens. Hellmaster Ku Quan and Tang Kong looked solemn. Wu Dao did not look up as if he did not see this scene. He only sighed softly at Princess Yufei and said, "It's my fault. Those perfect world fragments were accidentally dropped after I killed an opponent." When they heard the martial Dao body's words, the 20 boundary emperors who had just arrived stopped in their tracks. What do you mean?" Some of them thought for a moment and quickly realized what he meant. They were so frightened that they trembled and their expressions changed. Some of them felt their legs go weak and almost fell from the sky. My friends in the college entrance examination, do your best. End of chapter. Chapter 2988. With just one sentence from Wu Dao's true body, the 7 hell overlords were thrown into disarray, their morale falling apart. This was not their fault. It was just that this sentence sounded too shocking. What kind of people possessed a perfect world? A true imperial emperor expert. And a peak emperor. However, even a peak emperor had been killed by Araki Takashi. They dared to attack Wu Dao's true body because they had the combat strength of a boundary emperor. But now, they suddenly realized that the reason they could become boundary emperors was because Araki Takashi had unintentionally given them an opportunity. The battle had not yet begun, but their courage had weakened and they were at a loss. Hell Overlord Dark Spring saw that the situation was not good. If this continued, they would collapse without a fight even if Wu Dao's true body did not make a move. Everyone, don't listen to his nonsense. Hell Overlord Dark Spring said in a deep voice. Before the Lord of Hell left, his combat strength had not reached the Emperor realm. Now that only a few thousand years have passed, how could he have reached the level of killing a peak Emperor? That's right. Hell Overlord Dark Spring also said loudly, his words are full of loopholes and prove the fact that he is pretending to be the Lord of Hell. We are Hell Overlords. You are too naive to think that you can scare us with just one sentence. The 7 Hell Overlords gradually calmed down. However, the other boundary emperors were still a little hesitant. Hell Overlord Dark Spring swept his gaze and sneered, if you are scared off by just one sentence from him today, you will lose all face and become a laughingstock in the Hell world. When the boundary emperors heard this, they also felt a little embarrassed. They once again held up their boundary emperor grotto heavens and stared at Wu Dao's true body, ready to attack. Wu Dao's true body turned around and glanced at the 20 boundary emperors around him. His gaze was calm as he said slowly, losing face is better than losing life. In the Great Wasteland domain, he had experienced a true emperor battle. Those he faced were all peerless emperors and even peak emperors. Now, looking at the 20 boundary emperors around him, he really did not have much interest. Wu Dao's original body didn't even make a move. He just glanced at them indifferently and moved his divine sense. Suddenly, the bodies of the 20 quasi-emperors heated up. Before they could react, numerous crimson-red flames shot out from their bodies, burning their internal organs. Their skin and flesh cracked like red lotuses, and flames gushed out from their 7 apertures. The grotto heavens of these quasi-emperors were burning with raging flames, instantly turning red. In just a few breaths, he could no longer hold on and completely collapsed. Wu Dao's true body controlled these 6 supreme flames. As his cultivation base and divine sense increased, the power of each of these flames would increase as well. With his current cultivation level, even if it was just one type of flame, the surrounding boundary emperors would not be able to withstand it. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the bodies of the 20 quasi-emperors burned with red lotus hellfire as they screamed miserably. No matter how they struggled, they could not break free from their red lotus karmic fire. The red lotus karmic fire burned all sins. Only those who were not tainted by karma and sinful would not be harmed at all. This scene was too impactful for the billions of living beings in hell. From the beginning to the end, Wu Dao's true body did not even move a single finger. In a few breaths, the 20 quasi-emperors were burned to ashes without a corpse left. Even the Lord of Hell back then was probably nothing more than this. In the past 10 years, the number of Hell experts who obtained the world fragment of the constellation Horned Demon Emperor and became quasi-emperors was more than the 20 that had just died. In the vicinity, there were more than 30 quasi-emperors lying in wait, waiting to see what would happen. Now that they saw this scene, the quasi-emperors did not dare to hesitate and appeared one after another. They came to the cold spring hall and knelt down to Wu Dao's true body. "Greetings, master." The quasi-emperors bowed down. In the sky and on the ground, the billions of living beings in hell knelt on the ground with terrified expressions. Wu Dao's true body ignored them. He seemed to have discovered something and was deep in thought. Just now, when the red lotus karmic fire, ignited on the bodies of the 20 quasi-emperors. The flames of the red lotus karmic fire deviated slightly. Wu Dao's true body stretched out his fingertip, and a cluster of red lotus karmic fire burned on it. The flame was slightly tilted, as if there was a special force guiding it in that direction. That was the direction of the cold spring of hell. The last time when Wu Dao's true body released the red lotus karmic fire, such a situation did not occur. It was just that after the red lotus karmic fire burned the nether energy, its power would increase. Now, it was very likely that the red lotus karmic fire's power had increased as his cultivation level increased. But what was this mysterious attraction to the red lotus karmic fire? The source was the cold spring of hell? The records of hell did not seem to mention that the cold spring of hell had such a characteristic. Or was the source of this attraction also the source of the cold spring of hell, the nether river? Wu Dao's true body pondered for a long time, temporarily suppressing the curiosity in his heart. Dai Yu had once told him that there was a great terror at the end of the nether river. If even Dai Yu was so afraid, there was no need for him to take the risk now. The most important thing was to cultivate the Hell Sutra of the 9 Springs, and at the same time refine the many fragments of the world to step into the Emperor realm. Wu Dao's true body was daydreaming, thinking about other things. The 30 or so quasi-emperors and hundreds of millions of hell creatures knelt on the ground, not daring to move. They were extremely anxious and tormented. Who knew what the Lord of Hell was thinking? It was not impossible for him to vent his anger on them because they did not do anything. The more Wu Dao's true body remained silent, the more afraid this group of people became, and their imaginations ran wild. "Master?" Hell Overlord Ku Quan called out softly. Wu Dao's true body came back to his senses. Hell Overlord Ku Quan pointed at the group of hell creatures kneeling on the square, and said tentatively, "Although these people are in the wrong, they do not deserve to die. They will be a great help if they stay by your side. Why don't you give them a chance? Rise." Wu Dao's true body nodded slightly. He did not intend to start a massacre and kill all of them. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief as if they had been pardoned, but they still did not dare to rise. Wu Dao's true body looked at the 30 or so quasi-emperors and hundreds of millions of hell creatures not far away, and said slowly, "If you are willing to serve me as your master, there will naturally be greater opportunities for you in the future. If you are not willing, you can leave now." The 30 or so quasi-emperors were energized when they heard this. Wu Dao's true body had only killed a peak emperor, and the fragments of the world that fell unintentionally could help them become quasi-emperors. If there was greater opportunities, who would not be tempted? "We are willing to follow Master to death. If we betray you, may the heavens and earth destroy us." The 30 or so quasi-emperors said in unison, and the hundreds of millions of hell creatures echoed. Hell Overlord Ku Quan looked a little lonely when he saw this. He did not have much time left, and even if there were more opportunities, it would have nothing to do with him. Chapter 2989. Wu Dao body turned to look at Tang Kong and Bitter Spring Hell Lord, nodding slightly. "Thank you both for this time." Naturally, he could see that if it weren't for Hell Overlord Ku Quan and Tang Kong's desperate protection, Lady Jade wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Tang Kong smiled. "Master, you're too kind. It's our responsibility." Ku Quan also smiled. "I don't have much time left. Now that Master has returned and is guarding Hell, I can leave in peace." The martial Dao body patted the Bitter Spring Hell Lord's arm and said, "With me here, you won't die." Prison Master Ku Quan was startled. He didn't quite understand what the martial Dao master meant. He hesitated and said, "I'm afraid I only have a few thousand years left." The Grotto Heaven King's lifespan was 1,000,000 years. Although a quasi-emperor had not truly stepped into the emperor realm, their lifespan was greatly increased, reaching 2 to 3 million years. A few thousand years may seem long, but for a quasi-emperor with a lifespan of 3 million years, it was just a blink of an eye. Wu Dao said, "Don't worry. A few thousand years is enough." Wu Dao did not say anything. He did have a way to give Ku Quan and the others an opportunity, but the time was not yet right. Ku Quan saw that Wu Dao's tone was firm and did not seem to be joking. He could not help but let his imagination run wild. He only had a few thousand years left. If he did not want to die, there was only one way, and that was to step into the Emperor realm. Only by stepping into the Emperor realm and increasing his lifespan could he survive. But the infernal court was shattered, and its laws were incomplete. He had been stuck at the quasi-Emperor realm for 2 million years. It was impossible for him to step into the Emperor realm. Could Master let me step into the Emperor realm and become a true emperor? Thinking of this, Ku Quan's heart, which had been dead for many years, was stirred again. Wu Dao looked at Ku Quan and Tang Kong. I'm going to seclude myself in the infernal court for a while. I'll leave this place to you. Ku Quan and Tang Kong bowed and agreed. Emperor Qing Yan said that he would make a comeback. Dai Yu estimated that it might take a few hundred years. Time was tight. Wu Dao's true body exchanged a few words with Princess Yufei before heading to the cold springs of the other 7 hells to cultivate the remaining 7 chapters of the 9 Springs Hell Sutra. Flower Realm, Planet Qinglian. Over the past 10 years, Wu Dao's original body and Dai Yu had been discussing Dao in the Great Wasteland domain while Qinglian's original body was in seclusion. She had also gained a lot. However, after Wu Dao's true body entered hell, the connection between the 2 true bodies was once again severed. Su Zimo gradually woke up from his secluded cultivation in the cave. After calling Kitsune and Carefree over to his side, Su Zimo said, "Prepare yourselves. I'll take the 2 of you away from this place and return to the Sword World." Kitsune naturally had no problem with it and nodded calmly. Carefree stood at the side with an awkward expression, and he stuttered and hesitated to speak. "What's the matter?" Su Zimo looked at Carefree in surprise and asked. Bai Mingxue smiled at the side and said, "Master, let's go back. Let Xiaoyao stay here to accompany his sister Mulian." Carefree's face instantly flushed red when he heard this. Carefree glared at Kitsune and did not speak. He seemed to be silently protesting against Kitsune exposing his past. Su Zimo was stunned. Seeing Carefree's angry and embarrassed look, he knew that Kitsune was right. Over the years, he had spent most of his time in seclusion and did not pay much attention to his second disciple. He did not expect that Carefree and Mulian would develop so quickly. Su Zimo smiled and asked, "I remember that before you went into seclusion, the 2 of you stayed together all day to discuss Dao and learn from each other, right?" Kitsune curled her lips slightly and said, "In the first year, he followed me and called me senior sister all day long. In the next few years, it was difficult for me to see him even once." "No way." Carefree looked embarrassed as he mumbled. Mulian was a chivalrous and upright person. If Carefree could become her Dao companion, Su Zimo would naturally be happy for him. However, he had another layer of worry in his heart. This was also the reason why he wanted to leave the flower world. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and said, "Do you still remember the nether calamity poison that immortal King Yulan mentioned when he visited the Sword World?" Kitsune nodded. Su Zimo said, "At that time, immortal King Yulan said that a large amount of water in the flower world was contaminated by the nether calamity poison, but no one noticed it. At that time, I suspected that this nether calamity poison might have been sprinkled by someone in the flower world. Moreover, this person's status in the flower world might not be low. It was precisely because of this suspicion that Su Zimo instructed immortal King Yulan to hide the situation of the 3 of them after coming to the flower world to prevent them from being targeted by the person who poisoned them." "Why would someone in the flower world harm their own people?" Carefree asked in confusion. Su Zimo shook his head and did not say anything. This was only his guess, and he did not have any evidence. Su Zimo said, "No matter what, Carefree, if you want to stay on planet Qinglian, you must be careful everywhere. Not only do you have to hide your bloodline, but you also have to pay attention to some hidden dangers." Carefree nodded. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and left a message talisman to Carefree, saying, "If you feel that something is wrong, escape as soon as possible. If you can't escape, tear this message talisman and I will know." "Thank you, Master." Carefree hurriedly knelt on the ground and bowed to Su Zimo, his eyes slightly red. "Get up." Su Zimo smiled and gently flicked his sleeve, lifting Carefree up. Then, after a little tidying up, He took Kitsune, bade farewell to immortal King Yulan, and drove the immortal boat to the Sword World. Although Su Zimo had not stepped into the Grotto Heaven realm, he could break through the void and enter the spatial tunnel with the help of the Yin Yang Grotto Heaven Phantom. On the way back, Su Zimo said, "This time, I will probably leave the Sword World." Leave the Sword World? Kitsune looked at Su Zimo, a little puzzled. She could tell that Su Zimo's departure might not be as simple as going out for a walk. Su Zimo nodded and said, "In the beginning, when Emperor Iron Crown invited me to join the Sword World, I told him that I would leave one day." Of course, this was not an impromptu idea. Very early on, Su Zimo had thought of establishing a force so that the beings of the lower worlds could have equal opportunities to cultivate. The Heaven Baron sect was established under this idea. But as time passed, chaos appeared in Heaven Baron, Emperor Bo Sun entered the Pure Land of Bliss, the world-destroying Demon Emperor came back to life, and Immortal Emperor Chen Mu guarded the Nine Heavens' immortal realm. There were signs that the Heaven World was no longer a good place. The Heaven Baron sect would definitely evacuate. Moreover, Immortal Emperor Chen Mu had said something meaningful to him in the Emperor Tomb, telling him to escape as soon as possible so that he would not be involved in a catastrophe. Once the catastrophe that swept across 3,000 worlds broke out, at least so far, except for Wu Dao's original body, all his old friends of Heaven Baron, including his Qinglian's real body, would not be able to withstand it. Su Zimo had to leave a way out for these old friends of Heaven Baron. Chapter 2990. Master, where are you going? I'll follow you. Kitsune said. Su Zimo shook his head slightly. Stay in Sword World for now and continue cultivating. Strive to cultivate the true Wu Dao body to perfection as soon as possible. I'm going out to travel. If you follow me, you won't be able to gain any experience and might not even have time to cultivate. Kitsune lowered her head slightly in disappointment. After the two of them returned to Sword World, Su Zimo reorganized himself slightly before heading to Myriad Sword Palace to visit the three Emperor Lords who controlled Sword World. The three of them were not surprised to hear that Su Zimo intended to leave. Back then, the three of them had expected this day to come. The main reason why the old man with the Iron Crown left Su Zimo behind to be the Peak Master of Ninth Sword Peak was to form a good relationship with him. However, the three of them were still surprised to hear that Su Zimo did not intend to be the Peak Master of Ninth Sword Peak. Su Zimo did not hide it and said, "If there's a chance in the future, I'll establish a faction and it's not suitable for me to be the Peak Master of Sword World." That was only one of the reasons. There was another reason that he did not mention. The three of them exchanged glances. They could not force Su Zimo since he had already made up his mind. The fat old man sighed. It's a pity that the position of Peak Master of Ninth Sword Peak is empty. There's probably no suitable person in Sword World. Do you have anyone to recommend? The skinny old man looked at Su Zimo and asked. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and said, "Kitsune." The fat old man and thin old man exchanged glances in deep thought. The fat old man pondered and said, "Kitsune attracted the 99 heavenly tribulations. After you left, she became the #1 true spirit of Sword World and obtained your legacy. Her potential is limitless and she is indeed qualified to be the Peak Master of Ninth Sword Peak." The skinny old man frowned. She is indeed qualified. However, her cultivation realm is not high enough and it's a little early for her to be the Peak Master. The old man with the Iron Crown said, "Cultivation realm isn't a problem. When Su Zimo was the Peak Master of the Ninth Sword Peak, he was only at the true spirit realm. The problem is, the Ninth Sword Peak contains the sword burial Dao you left behind, yet Dark North seems to have not comprehended the sword burial Dao. So, how can he be the master of a peak?" Su Zimo said, "As far as I'm concerned, the Ninth Sword Peak isn't equal to the Burial Peak. If Dark North were to become the Peak Master of the Ninth Sword Peak, she would leave behind her own sword Dao on it." During the 10 years that Kitsune cultivated in the Flower World, she had once sparred with Xiao Yao and gained a lot from it. Even Su Zimo could sense the changes in Kitsune. Kitsune's cultivation method was inherited from Wu Dao. But in the Sword Dao, she formed her own sect. The old man's eyes lit up. In this way, the ninth sword peak might become the most unique existence in the sword dimension. The old man with the iron crown said, "In recent years, there have been frequent wars in the 3,000 worlds. The wars between the dragons, phoenixes, and the Kuan Pering have involved many worlds. You have to be careful when you travel. Don't get involved in these wars. Otherwise, it will be difficult to escape." The fat old man nodded and said, "In a war of this scale, even immortal kings can't protect themselves, let alone true spirit realm experts." The thin old man also said, "It's not just a war between these super worlds. I heard that the civil war in the Great Wasteland domain is very tragic. Imperial emperors have fallen one after another, and there are even peak imperial emperors who died in the Great Wasteland." The old man with the iron crown said in a deep voice, "I heard that the blood butterfly demon empress in the Great Wasteland domain has a helper by her side. His Taoist name is Araki Takashi, and his combat strength is extremely terrifying." After a pause, the old man with the iron crown reminded again, "Su Zimo, you must not go to the Great Wasteland. It's too dangerous there." Su Zimo coughed softly and agreed casually. The old man with the iron crown was puzzled when he saw Su Zimo's strange expression. He asked, "Do you have a destination in mind for your trip this time?" Su Zimo recalled everything that happened in Songlang Mountain Range and could not help but smile. He nodded and said, "Sanguine Ape World." Su Zimo had met most of his old friends who had ascended to the upper world from Tianhuang mainland or obtained some information about them. Monkey was the only one who had no news of him. Monkey belonged to the Sanguine Ape race and logically speaking, he should have ascended to the Sanguine Ape world. However, due to the calamity of the Sanguine Apes did not step foot into the Celestial Tribute world and Su Zimo did not have the chance to find out about Monkey's whereabouts. Now that he planned to leave the Sword world and travel, the first person he thought of was Monkey. The two of them knew each other the earliest and had a deep relationship. Not only did Monkey save his life, the two of them even lived together in Songlang Mountain Range for a period of time. Those days were unforgettable. Sanguine Ape World? The old man with the iron crown thought for a moment and said, "The Sanguine Ape World isn't that dangerous. Ever since the calamity of the Sanguine Apes suffered heavy losses and their vitality was greatly damaged. They rarely appear in the 3,000 realms anymore." The fat old man advised, "You're only a step away from the Grotto Heaven realm. Why don't you wait until you enter the Grotto Heaven realm before leaving? That way you'll be safer." "That's right." The skinny old man nodded as well. Su Zimo said, "My situation is a little special. If I cultivate in seclusion, I don't know how long it'll take for me to enter the Grotto Heaven realm. Seniors, there's no need to worry. Given my current cultivation, unless an Imperial Lord expert attacks personally, the others won't pose much of a threat to me. Given his current combat strength, he could definitely kill ordinary kings. Even if he encountered peerless or peak kings, he could make use of the Tai Yin Yang escape technique to escape from the battlefield at any time." The three Imperial Lords reminded him again before allowing Su Zimo to leave. Before he left, Su Zimo visited the 8 Peak Masters and drank until dawn. After that, he met with Yun Ting again. Ever since the battle in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, the gap between the two of them had gradually widened. In terms of cultivation realm, Yun Ting was not too far behind Su Zimo. However, Yun Ting knew in his heart that the difference in combat strength between the two of them was like heaven and earth. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough. However, Su Zimo was way too terrifying. His 9 supreme divine powers were unprecedented and unparalleled, never before seen in history. After bidding farewell to everyone from the Sword world and settling everything, Su Zimo left for the Blood Ape realm. Su Zimo was not worried about Monkey's situation. He heard from the Sword world that the Blood Ape race would not look down on their tribesmen who ascended from the lower world. Given Monkey's talent, he should be able to do well in the Blood Ape realm. He traveled through the spatial tunnel continuously. Relying on his spirit perception, he avoided dangerous places like black holes in space. Along the way, he was more scared than hurt. More than 2 months later, A huge and dark spatial rift suddenly appeared in the starry sky. A black-haired, green-robed man walked out. He had a head full of black hair and looked travel-worn. However, his eyes were bright and spirited. The green-robed man stood in midair and looked into the distance. Endless mountain ranges coiled in the starry sky like dragons, forming a boundless continent that was extremely majestic and shocking. The mountain peaks towered above and ancient trees provided shade. Compared to the ancient trees and mountains, the surrounding stars seemed much smaller. Among them, the most obvious was a blood-colored mountain peak in the center of the mountain range. It was tall and steep, almost piercing through the firmaments. A single glance at the blood-colored mountain peak and the green-robed man felt a surge of battle intent surging towards him. "Blood Ape Realm," the green-robed man muttered softly. Chapter 2991. Who's there? The moment the green-robed man approached the Blood Ape world, two true spirit experts of the Blood Ape world appeared and blocked his path, hollering. The green-robed man smiled and cupped his fists. "I'm Su Zimo and I'm here to visit an old friend." Su Zimo did not intend to continue hiding after leaving Sword World and relinquishing his position as the Peak Master of Ninth Sword Peak. Instead, he wanted to revert to his true name. On one hand, it was because his cultivation was growing and he had the strength to protect himself. On the other hand, it was also because of the strength of Wu Dao's true body. "Old friend." The two Blood Ape true spirits frowned and sized up Su Zimo with a scrutinizing gaze. The green-robed man looked travel-worn and should have come from afar. True spirit experts would encounter many unexpected dangers if they traveled long distances through the cosmos. It could be said that they would most likely die. This human true spirit looked frail. To think that he would have such guts and methods. "What's the name of your old friend?" The Blood Ape true spirit on the left asked. "I don't know." Su Zimo shook his head gently. The expressions of the two Blood Ape true spirits darkened. They thought that Su Zimo was toying with them and were about to fly into a rage. Su Zimo spoke once more. That old friend came from Tianhuang mainland in the lower world. When he was in the lower world, he did not have a name. Therefore, I'm not sure if he has a name after ascending. Tianhuang mainland? The Blood Ape true spirit on the right frowned slightly and whispered, "Could it be Senior Brother Yuan Huang?" "That's possible," the one on the left replied. Master asked Senior Brother Yuan Huang and he seemed to have mentioned that he came from some Tianhuang mainland. That's why he used that name. When the two Blood Ape true spirits saw that Su Zimo had a friendly expression and sounded sincere without any pretense, they let down their guard. "Follow me." The Blood Ape true spirit on the left turned and led the way towards the blood-colored mountain peak while saying, "The true spirit battle is being held in our race recently and Senior Brother Yuan Huang is also a popular candidate for the #1 true spirit." Su Zimo's eyes lit up. It seemed that not only was the monkey living a good life in the Blood Ape realm, but he was also successful in his cultivation. He actually had a chance of contending for the title of the #1 true spirit in the clan. "May I know your name, fellow Taoist?" Su Zimo asked. "My name is Yuan and the true spirit of the Blood Ape clan replied. The two of them sped along, and it didn't take long for them to arrive near the blood-colored mountain peak. As soon as he approached, Su Zimo heard the cries of sanguine apes reverberating between the numerous mountains and ancient trees. It was extremely lively. Su Zimo looked over and saw numerous blood apes gathered near the blood-colored mountain, and numerous figures stood on the ancient trees. They were densely packed and innumerable, causing it to be an unprecedentedly grand scene. From the looks of it, this true spirit battle was a rare event for the Blood Ape realm. At the foot of the mountain, there were 10 huge stone platforms. On each platform, there were 2 blood apes fighting each other. There was even a gigantic empty ranking board pasted on the blood-colored mountain peak. Yuan explained, "Those 10 stone platforms are the battle platforms of our race and that ranking board is the combat ranking. In every true spirit battle, only the top 10 clansmen will be able to leave their names on the combat ranking." Su Zimo nodded and scanned his surroundings, searching for traces of monkey. "Senior Brother Yuan Huang is over there." Yuan pointed into the distance. Su Zimo looked over and could not help but chuckle. Chapter 2992. Su Zimo glanced sideways at Yuan and beside him. Yuan An's eyes flashed with rage towards the gruesome and bloody scene on the fighting platform. However, he did not say anything. It was the same for the rest of the Sanguine Apes. The Sanguine Apes seemed to be used to such a scene. Although they were furious, they did not reveal much fighting spirit. Even the 6 Sanguine Ape World Kings presiding over did not stop them. Su Zimo noticed that among the 6 Sanguine Ape World Kings, 2 of them were sanguine apes with dark faces and taller figures. Life and death are allowed in the true spirit battle of the Sanguine Apes? Su Zimo asked. Yuan An was silent for a moment before replying. In theory, there are no rules or restrictions. Life and death are allowed. It was clear that Yuan An did not finish his sentence. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, I think the 2 true spirits of the Sanguine Ape world who attacked earlier on seem to be different from you guys. They should have different bloodlines, right? This was an extremely common situation among the 10,000 races. For example, among the dragons, there were the Horned Dragon, Blue Dragon and Illumination Dragon. Although they were dragons, their bloodlines were completely different. Yuan An nodded and did not hide anything. Fellow Taoist, you're right. Those 2 guys earlier on belonged to the horse monkey lineage. There are 4 lineages in the ape monkey lineage. Right now, the 2 most common lineages in the Sanguine Ape world are the Sanguine Ape lineage and the horse monkey lineage. Su Zimo nodded. However, although they were both of the horse monkey lineage, Ma Xian on the fighting platform had a unique bloodline that was clearly superior to the other members of his race. As the 2 of them conversed, the outcome of the remaining 3 fighting platforms was decided as well. For the 3 true spirit battles, the 6 true spirits, including Monkey, were all of the Sanguine Ape lineage. Although both sides fought fiercely, it did not escalate to a life and death battle. The moment the outcome was decided, they stopped immediately and walked down the fighting platform respectively. Seems like the Sanguine Ape lineage and the horse monkey lineage have some grudges. Su Zimo pondered in deep thought. After the first round of battles ended, 5 people emerged victorious and Monkey was one of them. In the second round of the true spirit battle, the 5 contestants drew lots first, and there were a total of 5 tokens. The true spirits with the number 4 token and the number 5 token would battle first, and the winner would become the 4th seed. Then, number 1 against number 4, and number 2 against number 3. The drawing order came out quickly. Number 1 was Monkey, number 2 was Ma Xian, number 3 was Yuan Qing, number 4 was Ma Xiao, and number 5 was Yuan Ci. Number 4 and number 5 were the 2 bloodlines from the Blood Ape realm. In the true spirit battle, Ma Xiao had killed another true spirit of the Blood Ape clan. Ma Xiao grinned at Yuan Ci and crooked his finger. Yuan Ci didn't utter a word. She carried her staff and stepped onto the fighting platform. A great battle instantly broke out. Those able to charge into the top 5 of the battle list were naturally not easy to deal with. Ma Xiao's attacks were fierce and aggressive. Yuan Ci was extremely calm. She was neither panicked nor anxious. She was on the defensive while attacking. Not a single drop of water leaked out. Both sides were in a stalemate for a long time. Ma Xiao's attacks gradually weakened, while Yuan Ci began to counterattack and gradually gained the upper hand. After fighting for a while more, Yuan Ci's bloodline surged and her aura suddenly soared. With a long howl, she broke through Ma Xiao's defenses and her metal staff went straight for the top of his head. If that staff hit, Ma Xiao's head would definitely be smashed into pieces and he would die on the spot. When Ma Xiao could not defend against it and was about to die on the spot, Yuan Ci's metal staff suddenly stopped hovering above Ma Xiao's head. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The relationship between the 2 lineages seemed to be different from what he had initially expected. If there was some sort of grudge between the 2 lineages, why would the Blood Ape lineage leave any leeway when the Horse Monkey lineage was so cold-blooded and had just killed a bloodline clansman? When he saw Yuan Ci stop on the fighting platform, Yuan An was not enraged. Instead, he heaved a sigh of relief. The other members of the Blood Ape tribe were not surprised by this scene. Since it's life and death, what are the blood ape lineage worried about? Suddenly, Su Zimo asked. Yuan was stunned, as though he had not expected that Su Zimo would notice the abnormality so quickly. He had a troubled expression and stuttered without saying anything. Right then, something happened on the battlefield. Initially, the outcome of this battle was already decided. However, just as Yuan Ci retracted his staff and was about to turn and leave, Ma Xiao suddenly attacked and released killing moves and secret skills consecutively. Yuan Ci was caught off guard and was heavily injured before she could even defend herself. However, Ma Xiao did not give him any chance to live and killed him with a single staff strike, destroying his essence spirit. This unforeseen event caused an uproar. The entire process took less than 2 to 3 breaths. By the time everyone reacted to it, Yuan Ci was already dead on the spot. What are you doing? Despicable and shameless. A series of curses burst forth from the blood apes and they were all agitated. Ha! Ma Xiao laughed arrogantly and pointed his staff at the many blood apes below, shouting, "Anyone who's indignant can come up and fight me." Although the blood apes were furious, none of them stepped forward when they heard that. Su Zimo looked at the 6 kings who were presiding over the true spirit battle high above. If none of the 6 kings stood up to uphold justice in such a situation, then the problem of the blood ape realm was more serious than he had imagined. Among the 6 kings, a blood ape king slowly stood up and gestured with his hands. He waited for the surrounding curses to die down before looking at the 2 horse monkey kings sitting beside him. The outcome of the battle just now was clearly decided. Yuan Ci showed mercy, but Ma Xiao ambushed him from behind and killed him. Isn't he too vicious? Ha! One of the horse monkey kings sneered. The outcome was already decided? Life and death are not determined on the battle stage. There is no such thing as victory or defeat. He was careless and was killed by someone else. He can't blame anyone else. The blood ape king's face flushed red with anger when he heard those words. Among the remaining 3 blood ape kings, some were silent and some sighed. The last one reached out and pulled the blood ape king, persuading in a low voice, "Punin, forget it." The sky-breaking ape king clenched his fists and didn't say a word. He still looked coldly at the 2 horse monkey kings beside him. Su Zimo's divine sense moved. The sky-breaking ape king's cultivation was at the greater success stage of the Grotto Heaven realm, while the 2 horse monkey kings were only at the initial success stage. However, the sky-breaking ape king and the other 3 blood ape kings were clearly wary of the 2 horse monkey kings. What? The horse monkey king's expression darkened when he saw the sky-breaking ape king standing still and staring coldly at him. He slowly stood up and asked coldly, "Do you want to overturn the heavens?" Su Zimo's gaze moved and landed on a token at the horse monkey king's waist. His pupils constricted and flashed coldly. He narrowed his eyes and said, "By the will of the heavens." This medallion represented the origin of this monkey king. The Sky Offering World. Su Zimo didn't expect to meet someone from the Sky Offering World in the Blood Ape realm, and a king at that. Perhaps there was more than one. Chapter 2993. You know about the Heavenly Order? Yuan looked at Su Zimo in surprise. Su Zimo nodded and did not say anything. Yuan revealed a sad expression and laughed mockingly. "Since you know about the Heavenly Order, you should know that they belong to the Heavenly Order. Who dares to challenge them?" Faced with the questioning of the Horse Monkey King, the heaven-breaking Ape King seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure. Gritting his teeth, he sat back down slowly. The sanguine apes gradually quietened down. The laughter from the Horse Monkey tribe was unusually ear-piercing. Su Zimo could clearly sense that the sanguine apes no longer had the spirit that they should have. Their willpower was low. Su Zimo asked, "Since the true spirit battle doesn't concern life and death, what's wrong with killing the other party? Pay with your life." Yuan said, "Furthermore, it's not just the person who kills them that will pay with his life. His parents, brothers, children, and anyone related to him will be implicated and buried with him. Let me ask you, under such circumstances, would you dare to kill the other party?" Su Zimo was silent. Yuan unclenched his fists slightly and became agitated. He said softly, "It's not that the sanguine apes don't have guts. It's just that we've been through way too much over the years. I told you earlier that the ape monkey tribe originally had 4 tribes. Among them, the stone monkey tribe went extinct at the end of the war era. The macaque tribe went extinct in the calamity of the sanguine apes in this era. What did our guts get us in the end? The horse monkey tribe submitted and became the lackeys of the heavenly order. At least the sanguine apes didn't submit." Su Zimo sighed softly in his heart. He knew about the hardships and pressure the sanguine apes faced in the past. He also understood the choice they made. If they continued to resist, the sanguine apes would follow in the footsteps of the stone monkey and macaque tribes. As Yuan said, it was already rare that the sanguine apes did not submit to the heavenly order. Furthermore, in this era, only the sanguine apes dared to question the heavenly order and even went to the extent of clashing head-on. In the end, it led to the calamity of the sanguine apes that almost wiped out their tribe. Among the 3,000 in the upper realm, only the Blood Ape clan had the guts and courage to do so. However, under the pressure of the traders and the celestial bestowment world, the bloodiness of the Blood Apes had gradually been wiped out. They no longer had the spirit to fight against the heavens. Yuan gradually calmed down and realized that he had lost his composure. Only then did he say, "Fellow Taoist, I've made a fool of myself by saying so much." There was no contempt in Su Zimo's eyes. His expression was solemn as he cupped his hands in respect. The second round of the true spirit battle was not over yet. The remaining 4 people fought in pairs. Monkey number 1 fought against Ma Xiao, who had just killed the Blood Ape clan's true spirit. Number 2, Ma Xian, was fighting against number 3, the Blood Ape race's true spirit. Seeing this, Yuan turned his head and said, "Senior brother Yuan Huang is quite lucky. He has a higher chance of winning against Ma Xiao. If I meet Ma Xian in this round, I'm afraid I'll be eliminated early." Su Zimo had long noticed that Ma Xian's qi and blood were clearly stronger than the other members of the Horseshoe Monkey clan. That Ma Xian's bloodline seems to be somewhat special. What's his background? Su Zimo asked. Yuan looked at Su Zimo in surprise and praised, "Fellow Taoist, you have sharp eyes." Pausing for a moment, Yuan said, "There's an extremely rare and supreme bloodline of the Horseshoe Monkey lineage known as the Redbone Horseshoe Monkey. The Redbone Horseshoe Monkey understands yin and yang, understands human affairs and is adept at entering and exiting, avoiding death and prolonging life. Ma Xian belongs to that bloodline." As the 2 of them conversed, the battle had already begun on the battle platform. Su Zimo pondered and asked again, "Since the Horseshoe Monkey lineage has such a supreme bloodline, do the other 3 lineages have it as well?" "Of course." Yuan nodded. The supreme bloodline of the Stone Monkey lineage is known as the Intelligent Stone Monkey. It's capable of transformations, knows the weather and geography, and can shift the stars. The supreme bloodline of the Macaque lineage is known as the 6-eared macaque. It's adept at hearing and can discern reason, understanding everything. As for the supreme bloodline of the Sanguine Ape lineage, it's known as the Long-Armed Blood Ape. It can grasp the sun and moon, shrink the mountains, discern right and wrong, and manipulate the universe. At that point, Yuan turned to Monkey on the battle platform and hesitated. Actually, senior brother Yuan Huang has already awakened the Long-Armed Blood Ape. However what? Su Zimo asked. Yuan said regretfully, "After the calamity of the Sanguine Ape, the Horseshoe Monkey lineage submitted to the Heaven Tribute world and controlled the Sanguine Ape world, forbidding us from leaving. With that, senior brother Yuan Huang is lacking in opportunities and has only awakened 10% to 20% of his bloodline. He's far from reaching the peak of the Long-Armed Blood Ape." As the 2 of them conversed, the outcome of the 2 battles on the battle platform was about to be decided. Ma Xian relied on the immense blood qi of the Redbone Horseshoe Monkey and did not use his full strength. He toyed with his opponent like a cat toying with a mouse and controlled the situation. On the other side, Monkey's cultivation realm was lower. However, he relied on a powerful secret skill to raise his combat strength to the level of a Paradise Void realm. Su Zimo had witnessed that secret skill personally before. Back when the true marshal's 10th heavenly tribulation descended on Wu Dao's true body, the Emperor of Combat released a similar method. According to Yuan An's description, the long-armed blood ape could grab the sun and moon and shrink mountains. It was clear that it possessed immense strength and was most proficient in melee combat. Furthermore, Su Zimo could sense a strong will to battle from Monkey. It was unyielding and fearless. Against that aura, Ma Xiao was forced to retreat. Right then, as though he was unwilling to continue toying with his opponent, Ma Xian's blood qi surged and he waved his dagger axe, breaking through the defenses of the sanguine ape true spirit and piercing the other party's head. On the other side, the outcome was decided as well. After a series of head-on clashes, Ma Xiao's arms were numb and he could no longer grip his rod. He was sent flying by Monkey's rod. However, Monkey did not stop against the bare-handed Ma Xiao. A ferocious glint shone in his eyes as he swung his rod and smashed it towards Ma Xiao's head. Ma Xiao's expression changed. The aura and killing intent released by that rod was completely different from the previous situation. Not good, he wants to kill me. That thought flashed through Ma Xiao's mind and he was alarmed. Without time to think, he reached out instinctively and grabbed Monkey's rod. Bang! The rod smashed down and was gripped tightly by Ma Xiao's hands. Crack, crack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Under the immense pain, Ma Xiao glared at Monkey with widened eyes and hollered, "How dare you kill me?" "That's right, I'm going to kill you." Monkey smirked and let go of the rod with a sinister gaze. He strode forward and bent his knees slightly, propping his hands in the air as though he was offering a fruit. Ma Xiao gripped Monkey's rod with both hands. He could not defend in time and could only retreat instinctively. However, Monkey was even faster. With a leap, he stood up and grabbed Ma Xiao's chin with both hands. Snap! Ma Xiao's head was flung back at a frightening angle and his cervical vertebra was snapped. Monkey had no intention of stopping and punched in reverse, smashing down towards Ma Xiao's face like a gigantic seal. Ma Xiao's reaction was extremely fast as well. Although his body was severely injured, his essence spirit broke out of his body and fled into the distance. Just as his essence spirit was about to escape Monkey's attack range, Monkey's arms suddenly expanded by dozens of feet and tore through the air. The gigantic seal descended from the skies and destroyed Ma Xiao's essence spirit. Chapter 2994. In a cave abode deep in the sanguine ape world, an old ape seemed to have sensed something and opened his eyes slowly. The old ape's fur was already white and his eyes were turbid. It was as though he could see through the layers of space and see the situation on the fighting platform. How rare, the old ape murmured softly. After the calamity of the sanguine ape, our clansmen will to fight gradually dissipated and are no longer as strong as they were in the past. To think that I would be able to see a junior with such a fighting spirit. It's just a pity, the old ape sighed, feeling both pity and guilt. He knew clearly what consequences this junior was going to face, but he was powerless to change it. Even if he was the lord of a world. Not far away from the old ape, a sanguine ape emperor lord said, "The two horse monkey emperor lords are monitoring our every move under the will of the heavens. If we make a move, we'll definitely give them a handle. If the celestial tribute world invades en masse, all of us will die. Dozhan, our sanguine ape world can't withstand a second calamity." When the old ape heard that, he waved it off. "Don't call me Dozhan anymore. I'm no longer worthy of that title. The reason why our clansmen are reduced to their current state is directly related to me lowering my head to the celestial tribute world back then." The sanguine ape emperor lord said, "We all know that you had no choice but to lower your head to the celestial tribute world back then because you wanted to protect the bloodline of our clansmen. If not for that, the sanguine ape world would have been gone. Furthermore, although we lowered our heads, we straightened our backs and did not submit. At the very least, we did not kneel down to the celestial tribute world and become their lackeys like the horse monkey emperor lords." The old ape looked deeply at Monkey on the fighting platform and lamented, "What a great junior. It's been a long time since I've felt such a fighting spirit sigh." Ma Xiao was dead. The vicinity of the blood-colored mountain peak was dead silent. Be it the sanguine ape or horse-monkey lineage, all of them looked at the figure on the fighting platform in disbelief with widened eyes and shocked expressions. Everyone knew the consequences of killing Ma Xiao. Monkey naturally knew as well. However, he still killed Ma Xiao. Upon seeing that, many sanguine ape clansmen felt their emotions that they had suppressed for a long time being released. They could sense a will that they had not felt in a long time from Monkey. It was a fearless, indomitable spirit that wanted to fight against the heavens. This kind of emotion quietly spread through the crowd. The eyes of many blood apes flashed with a bloody light. The battle intent in their bodies that they hadn't felt for a long time was gradually awakened. How dare you! You're courting death! The horseshoe monkeys came to their senses and cursed loudly. Ha! Monkey reared his head in laughter and stood in a pool of blood on the fighting platform with his head held high. His eyes were bloodshot as he surveyed his surroundings with a prideful expression without any hint of regret or fear. The sound of a sharp blade slicing through the air was extremely ear-piercing. It was Ma Xian who had come to the fighting platform where the monkey was. Without even giving a greeting, he raised his dagger axe and stabbed it toward the monkey's chest. Monkey sensed danger and snorted coldly. He swung his long staff and deflected the incoming dagger axe before engaging in battle with Ma Xian. This battle was the final round of the true spirit battle. The outcome of the battle between the two was still unknown. Su Zimo was not in a position to intervene. Yuanan said softly, "Their cultivation realms are a level apart and their bloodlines are different as well. Senior brother Yuan Huang is bound to lose." Another blood ape sighed. Senior brother Yuan Huang has no intention of living. Even if he can defeat Ma Xian, he'll pay with his life. On the fighting platform, Ma Xian no longer held back. His blood chi surged as he danced with his dagger axe, suppressing Monkey completely. However, Monkey relied on an indomitable battle intent to take on Ma Xian's ferocious attacks head-on. Instead, the more he fought, the braver he became, as though he had endless strength. A look of impatience flashed through Ma Xian's face. His blood chi surged once more and he released his bloodline phenomenon. A tall and burly figure of a horseshoe monkey appeared behind him and controlled a torrential current that drowned Monkey instantly. This was a complete suppression in terms of strength. Monkey could not defend against it in the end and was engulfed by the current, falling to the ground. Ma Xian took a step forward and stomped heavily on Monkey's chest. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. That stomp almost crushed Monkey's chest. "Aren't you arrogant?" Ma Xian stepped on Monkey with an arrogant expression and burst into laughter. Monkey was already exhausted and could not move at all under Ma Xian's stomp. Even so, the ferocious glint in his eyes did not diminish and there was no hint of submission. "Dog, how dare you kill my clansmen? Do you submit?" Ma Xian exerted strength in his stomp and hollered once more. "F***ck your mother." Monkey cursed and spat at Ma Xian. Ma Xian tilted his head slightly and dodged it easily. Turning around, he looked at the many blood apes around him and asked with a menacing smile, "Why? I saw that you guys were eager to try earlier on. If there's anyone who's indignant, you can come up. I'll give you guys a chance." When the blood apes saw that, they felt immense pressure and their battle intent that had just been awakened was extinguished once more. Indeed, none of them were a match for Ma Xian. It was said that Ma Xian had already comprehended a supreme divine power and they would only be courting death if they went forward. In fact, they might even implicate their kin and brothers. Ma Xian's gaze was sharp as he surveyed his surroundings. Many blood apes lowered their heads and avoided his gaze, not daring to meet his gaze. "Haha." Ma Xian laughed with a disdainful expression and curled his lips. "A bunch of cowards." Monkey sneered and said, "No matter how weak the blood apes are, we have never bowed to the celestial worship world and become their lackeys." "You're courting death." Ma Xian's face darkened. Even the two horse monkey tribe immortal kings who were overseeing the situation frowned and their eyes turned cold. Monkey's words had really hit them where it hurt. "So what if I die? What's there to be afraid of?" Monkey laughed and said, "I've killed one today. It's enough. Do you think that you're the only one who has to pay with your life for killing a member of the horse monkey tribe? Ma Xian said coldly, your parents, brothers, children, master, and all the clansmen who are related to you will die with you. Haha. Monkey laughed even more wildly when he heard that and said loudly, I came from the lower world and have no parents. After I ascended, I didn't have a master and I don't have any children or brothers. I'm the only one left. Kill me if you want. Ma Xian was stunned. Yuan seemed to have thought of something when he heard that and his body shook. He gradually clenched his fists and said, after senior brother Yuan Huang ascended, he didn't have a master or interact with anyone. He was extremely cold to everyone. I thought that he was a loner, so he was doing this for this day. The other blood apes gradually understood as well. After Monkey ascended and heard about what happened to his clansmen, he had long thought of this day. Exchanging a life for a life and not implicating his clansmen. Monkey was using his own choice and method to adhere to the Tao of battle in his heart. The four blood ape tribe immortal kings who were watching the battle sighed when they saw this scene. They couldn't bear to see it and turned their heads away. Some of the young blood ape clansmen were crying softly. Senior brother Yuan Huang. Yuan An's eyes were red as he looked at the figure on the battle stage who was still cursing under Ma Xian's feet. His vision was blurry. At this moment, a soft murmur came from beside him. Monkey is indeed an orphan, but he still has a few sworn brothers. Yuan An instinctively looked over and saw that the green-robed man who came with him had already walked forward. Chapter 2995. On the fighting platform. Ma Xian stepped on Monkey with a dark gaze and could not make up his mind for a moment. Against such a provocative sanguine ape, killing the latter casually would not be enough to vent his anger or intimidate the sanguine ape race. However, he could not find a suitable excuse to implicate others. Who said that he has no brothers? Suddenly, a voice sounded from the crowd. Ma Xian was delighted when he heard that and turned towards the voice hurriedly. When Monkey heard that voice, his eyes widened in disbelief and he turned his head with difficulty, wanting to see the person who spoke. A black-haired, green-robed man was exceptionally eye-catching among the many sanguine apes and was walking over. When Monkey caught sight of that person, his eyes reddened instantly and his breathing turned heavy. Instinctively, he opened his mouth wanting to call out, "Big brother." However, he immediately realized something and swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. If he shouted, he would definitely implicate Su Zimo. Why was Big Brother here? What was he doing here? Monkey's mind was in a mess. Initially, he was rather calm because he was prepared to die. Now that he caught sight of Su Zimo, he was surprised, delighted and could not contain his excitement. When Ma Xian saw who it was, he frowned slightly. It was clear that this person did not belong to the sanguine ape realm and had an unknown background. However, he did not ask about the identity of the person. As long as the person could provide information about Yuan Huang's brothers, he could put aside the identity of the person for the time being. You said that he has brothers? In his agitation, he could not help but shout, and asked in a deep voice. Su Zimo had already arrived when he heard the fighting platform and nodded. Good. From what I know, this monkey does not have any blood brothers. You're a good big brother. However, you're rather loyal to your friends and took the initiative to stand out. Ma Xian's eyes lit up. Your courage is commendable. Judging from the way this person spoke, the many horse monkey tribe members could even name the exact number of sworn brothers. You don't recognize me? He should not be spouting nonsense. Su Zimo turned and looked at Ma Xian with raised brows. Beneath his feet. Haha. After this person appeared, was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world. That this person was not lying. Tell us how famous you are. Who are the six brothers and where are they? The many horse monkey tribe members below cheered as well. As long as you can tell me, feel that after he appeared, there would definitely be people from the blood ape world who would recognize him. After this person spoke, the true spirit would be of no use to him, so he could just kill him. Gathered in the celestial tribute world differently. The other
in the
five
fiend
brothers are
battlefield,
not in the
he
blood
killed
ape
more than
realm.
20
Only
supreme
one
true
is here.
spirits single-handedly
Ma
and
Xian
became
asked,
famous in a single battle,
Su Zimo
shocking the upper
replied.
worlds.
Ma Xian
However,
was stunned.
given the current
surrounding
situation,
blood
it was
ape
clear
tribe
that
and horse
no
monkey
one
tribe
recognized
were
him.
also
No
dumbfounded.
wonder
No
Yuan,
wonder
who had brought
instantly
Su Zimo here,
Su
was
Zimo
even more
understood what was going
confused when
on.
he heard this.
Back then,
He knew
there
that
were
Su
no
Zimo
true
was here to
spirits
look
of
for
the
his
blood ape
senior
world
brother
in the
Yuan
celestial
Huang,
tribute
but he
world.
didn't know that they were
The horse
sworn
monkey
brothers.
lineage had always
Moreover,
stayed in the blood
even if
ape
the two
world
of them
to
were
monitor
sworn
the blood
brothers,
ape race
wouldn't
and
it be
did not head to
suicide
the
to stand
celestial
out in this
tribute world to
situation?
enter the fiend battlefield.
Ma Xian sized up
Naturally,
Su
no
Zimo
one had
and his
seen
face
Su Zimo
gradually
before.
darkened.
My
He
name
narrowed
is
his
Su
eyes
Zimo.
and said coldly,
Su Zimo
"Are you
smiled
playing
as
with
well.
me?" He also
Ma
couldn't
Xian
believe that
pretended
someone
to
would
exaggerate
actually jump
and
out and
exclaimed,
seek their own
"What
death.
a resounding name.
Aren't you looking for his
Thereafter,
brother? He surveyed the
Su Zimo
surroundings
leaped
and
onto the
asked
battle
loudly,
platform
"This
and
person
pointed
is
to
called
monkey
Su
beneath
Zimo.
Ma Xian's feet
Has
with a
anyone
calm
heard of him
expression.
before?"
I'm his
Even
big
the
brother.
blood ape lineage
Ma Xian
exchanged
frowned,
glances,
unable to
let
figure out
alone
Su
the horse
Zimo's
monkey
intentions.
lineage. The
After
six
Su
kings
Zimo
sitting
got
high
onto
up
the
in the
battle
sky looked
platform,
at each other.
he no longer
They were
looked at
all
Ma
at a
Xian.
loss. Instead,
name
he
was
looked at
indeed
Monkey and
unfamiliar.
scolded jokingly,
Even with their
"Monkey,
knowledge,
you
they
don't
had
even
not heard
acknowledge
of it
me as your
before,
big brother
let
after
alone the
ascending?"
other members of their
At that
race.
point, Monkey
Fufu.
knew that Su
Ma
Zimo
Xian
had
looked
already
around and
made up his
sneered.
mind and could
What a
not
pity
hide
that
it
no
any
one
longer.
has heard of your name.
Pausing for a moment, Ma Xian retracted his smile and glared at Su Zimo with killing intent. "Also, you might not have understood the situation. To put it simply, you're going to die." Before he finished, Ma Xian suddenly waved his dagger axe and stabbed toward Su Zimo's face at an extremely fast speed. Just as the dagger axe was about to pierce Su Zimo's face, Su Zimo suddenly reached out and grabbed the dagger axe. Instinctively, Ma Xian wanted to twist his dagger axe and crush Su Zimo's palm. However, he realized that his destiny numinous treasure was in Su Zimo's hands and could not move at all. Sniff. Before he could react, he heard a crisp sound beside his ear. Su Zimo's palm suddenly exerted strength and snapped his destiny numinous treasure. That dagger axe was a pure yang numinous treasure of the 9 tribulations. But now, it was snapped into 2 by this seemingly frail man bare-handed. Ma Xian's expression changed starkly. Su Zimo tossed in reverse and the broken dagger axe in his hands shot out. Limitless yin yang. Ma Xian's reaction was extremely fast as he channeled his bloodline and released a supreme divine power. The Redbone horse monkey lineage had a saying that they understood yin and yang and were innately close to yin and yang Dao techniques. Su Zimo did not dodge or evade. His left eye was pitch black and his right eye was pure white as he devoured the power of yin and yang in a frenzy. With the 2 divine stones, illumination and nether glow in his eyes, Su Zimo dispelled the limitless yin-yang into nothingness. When he saw that, Ma Xian was scared out of his wits with a horrified expression. He had never seen such ghostly methods before. After the limitless yin-yang was dispelled, the broken dagger axe penetrated his chest instantly. Fresh blood spewed out. A tremendous force sent his body flying. All of a sudden, a huge shadow shrouded over. It was the figure of the green-robed man. Su Zimo was even faster and caught up in half a step. With a momentum that could plow the heavens, he stomped heavily on Ma Xian's face. With a single kick, Ma Xian's head exploded into pieces and his essence spirit was destroyed. Chapter 2996. Ma Xian's tragic death caused an uproar. No matter what, Ma Xian had the bloodline of the red-bone horse monkey and had comprehended a supreme ability. He was a true supreme spirit. But against Su Zimo, Ma Xian could not resist at all and was killed almost instantly. The entire process was too fast. By the time the 6 Blood Ape Realm Kings reacted, Ma Xian was already dead on the spot. If the people present knew Su Zimo's background, they would not be surprised. Why did Ma Xian die so easily? After the battle on the Fiend battlefield, Su Zimo was already recognized as the #1 true spirit in the 3,000 worlds. More than 20 supreme true spirits were all killed by him alone. After so many years, Su Zimo's combat strength had improved. To him, killing a supreme true spirit like Ma Xian was no different from killing a chicken. What was even more unexpected was that this seemingly frail and delicate-looking outsider would dare to kill a true spirit of the Blood Ape realm in front of everyone from the Blood Ape realm. Yuanin, who had brought Su Zimo here, was shocked as he murmured, "Who did I bring with me?" No matter what his background is, he can't leave the Blood Ape realm after killing Ma Xian. He probably doesn't know that behind Ma Xian is the Celestial Tribute World, a terrifying force that transcends the world and surpasses the upper worlds. The ignorant are fearless. Seeing Ma Xian die, the Blood Apes felt relieved. But they also knew that the green-robed man on the battle platform even if caused a disaster. Escaped now, they felt he would be caught by the Red Sea Monkey King before he could leave the Blood Ape that were overseeing the area. Su Zimo's just the murderous gazes of the macaque race alone were enough to rip this green-robed cultivator to shreds. Secret art. His left eye naturally knew that once his right eye shone with he would definitely become enemies with the Celestial Tribute World. They formed a yin-yang twin fish diagram that spun the consequences of becoming enemies with the Celestial Tribute World. Whisk. But seeing the jade handle as the shaft, he had no other choice. Thread as the hair, taking 10,000 steps as the ink, even if he wrote a few strange mobilized on the yin-yang twin fish diagram. It was not as if he did not have the strength to whisk into the black and white wasteland of the yin-yang twin fish diagram. Was already fighting with the heavenly with the diagram and Celestial Tribute World. The void cracked open, what if he and offended the Celestial Tribute World? Even if Wu Dao's original body couldn't grabbed the monkey and was about to step with the monkey and head to the inheritance ground of the 9 underworlds to lay low. At that moment, long before he made his move, he had already gone through all the consequences and possible scenarios in his mind. Didn't have any ill intentions. How dare you? However, the 2 monkey kings were enraged. Su Zimo had already offended the table and Celestial Tribute staring world. At Su Zimo as they shouted, the monkey would most likely die. The heaven-breaking his first reaction was to ask Su Zimo to leave the monkey behind. Kings and said in a deep voice, stood at the entrance of the spatial tunnel first. He paused and glanced sideways. When the 2 monkey kings heard this, can you protect him? Their lungs were about to explode from anger. The fell silent. One of them glared at the heaven-piercing today's matter was investigated, the monkey would definitely die if he stayed in the Blood Ape realm. So they didn't even dare to kill a horse monkey. The heaven-breaking ape king's actions seemed like he was trying to calm the 2 monkey kings down. The sky-piercing actually trying to stop with his divine sense. Su Zimo a chance. At the same time, he charged. He couldn't help Su Zimo and shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" He did not want to stand on the side of the horse monkey lineage either. He didn't actually use any techniques. Seemed to have realized something. He was just putting on an act. Look at the heaven-breaking ape king with narrowed eyes. He brought the monkey into the spatial tunnel and disappeared. With Su Zimo's support, not long after he left, had already stood above the battle stage. When he saw that the 2 monkey kings were about to make a move, with a thick bloody aura walked out and looked around with a malicious gaze. That's all you monkeys are capable of? It was the Red Sea Monkey King. To think that you need kings to deal with a true spirit. The Red Sea Monkey King looked at the corpses and rivers of blood around him. Moreover, they were all from the horse monkey bloodline. His face couldn't help but turn gloomy. The horse monkey race's losses were too great. After seeing Ma Xian's corpse on the battle stage, the Red Sea Monkey King's bloody aura became even stronger. His expression was cold, and his aura became much more violent. He slowly asked, "Who did this?" Some of the horseshoe monkeys who were lucky enough to survive hurriedly ran over and recounted the scene that had just happened in detail. Yuan Huang, Su Zimo? The Red Sea Monkey King narrowed his eyes and murmured. Then, he glanced at the sky-piercing Ape King and the other 3 Beast Kings and said coldly, "The 4 of you just stood by and watched, allowing an outsider to slaughter our horse monkey race. In my opinion, this Su Zimo or whatever was brought here by you
If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. The sky-piercing ape king sneered and said, "The entire process happened too quickly. Those two beast kings were killed before they could even last a single round. Moreover, that Su Zimo wanted to escape. We even tried to stop him, but we couldn't." Although the Red Sea Monkey King didn't see it with his own eyes, he could guess that the sky-piercing ape king and the others wouldn't try their best to stop him. Whether you want to condemn someone or not, I'll find out after I capture those two bastards and search their souls. The Red Sea Monkey King sneered and said, "If this has anything to do with you, I'll bury 10 times, no, 100 times your blood, apes." Chapter 2999. Hearing the Red Sea Monkey King's threat, the sky-breaking ape king sneered inwardly, but his expression did not change. Su Zimo had nothing to do with the blood ape race. Even if he did, that person had already escaped into the spatial tunnel. Even if the Red Sea Monkey King chased after him, he would not be able to catch up. Roar! The Red Sea Monkey King roared at the sky, summoning all the Horse Monkey Kings to gather here. Many Horse Monkey Kings came out of seclusion. Soon, 17 Horse Monkey Kings arrived. Apart from the Red Sea Monkey King, there were 2 other peak-tier kings. The sky-breaking ape king looked on coldly. The cosmos was vast and boundless. It was possible for Su Zimo to escape in any direction. But in the universe, even the slightest deviation would cause the gap between them to widen. Even if the Red Sea Monkey King gathered 180 kings, it would still be hard for them to catch up to Su Zimo, let alone 18 kings. The Red Sea Monkey King gave a simple description of what had just happened. When the 17 Horse Monkey Kings saw what had happened, their faces turned green. They were furious and filled with killing intent. Red Sea, those 2 have already escaped for a long time. How do we chase after them? A Horse Monkey King frowned. The universe is vast. If we scatter and search, it will be like searching for a needle in a haystack. The Red Sea Monkey King said, "Everyone, don't worry. If you follow me, we will be able to catch up to those 2 ants." Although that brat has already escaped, the escape technique he used involves yin and yang. There will be traces of yin and yang left behind in this place. Traces of yin and yang. The other horse monkey kings frowned. They naturally could not see any traces of yin and yang with their divine senses. The sky-breaking ape king also revealed a confused expression. But soon he realized that something was wrong. The Red Sea Monkey King had already awakened the complete red-bone horse monkey bloodline. It was said that it understood yin and yang, understood human affairs, and avoided death. Others might not be able to see any traces of yin and yang, but it could not escape the Red Sea Monkey King's eyes. At this moment, the Red Sea Monkey King's eyes started to change. His left eye turned black and his right eye white. It turned into a pair of yin and yang eyes that could see through the void and capture traces of yin and yang. "Everyone follow me," the Red Sea Monkey King said in a deep voice. The sky-breaking ape king's eyes flickered. Just as he was about to step forward, a blood ape king stopped him and shook his head. "Parin, we can't do anything about this," the blood ape king said telepathically. The heaven-breaking ape king frowned and said, "If Chi Hai and the others chase after them, Yuan Huang and Yuan Huang will definitely die. Are we just going to sit by and do nothing?" That Su Zimo's identity and background are unknown. "Let's not act rashly," another blood ape king said. The heaven-piercing ape king said, "Even so, that Su Zimo did help us vent our anger, and Yuan Huang is also one of our clansmen. Parin, you have to understand that Su Zimo killed the king of the celestial tribute world. He's already committed a heinous crime." The first blood ape king said in a serious tone, "If we interfere, we'll definitely be used against us. Chi Hai and the others will definitely use this chance to accuse us of being sinners. When that time comes, we'll probably be locked up in the War Sin land and never see the light of day again." The other blood ape king said, "Back then, the sector lords suffered great humiliation and bowed to the celestial tribute world in order to protect us. We can't let him down." The sky-breaking ape king clenched his fists and didn't say a word. He slowly lowered his head. Deep within the blood ape world, an old ape slowly stood up. A hint of hesitation flashed through his muddy eyes. With the arrival of the perfected grotto heaven, the loss of lifespan finally stopped, and the crisis was resolved. But even so, he had lost a total of 200,000 years of lifespan. Furthermore, the Red Sea Monkey King was completely baffled and didn't know how he had fallen for it. Su Zimo, who was below, lamented internally when he saw that. In fact, he also knew that even if the 9 supreme divine abilities were stacked together, they would not be able to injure a pinnacle king. The reason why he released all of them was because he wanted to hide the fleeting youth within so that no one would notice. Only this supreme divine ability could pose a threat to a pinnacle king. The Red Sea Monkey King was indeed hit, but he reacted extremely quickly. He held up his perfected grotto heaven and used an even stronger Dao technique to erase the fleeting youth, escaping from the crisis. Most of the time, Su Zimo would choose opponents who didn't have much lifespan left to release the fleeting youth. Only then would he have a higher chance of killing them in one strike. For a pinnacle king like the Red Sea Monkey King, even if he lost 200,000 years of his lifespan, he would still be in peak condition and his battle prowess would not decrease. "Let's go!" Su Zimo shouted softly, and 2 divine stones appeared in his eyes. He released the Tai Yin Yang escape art and prepared to escape. In such a battle, the surrounding space would be distorted and shattered. Even a grotto heaven king would find it difficult to build a spatial tunnel and leave at will. However, the Tai Yin Yang escape art was not restricted. You want to leave?" Just as the Tai Yin Yang escape art was released, 2 reprimands came from both sides. The next moment, a pitch-black staff descended from the sky, emitting an ear-piercing sound. It was powerful and heavy as it smashed toward the top of the monkey's head. The corners of Su Zimo's eyes twitched violently. The power of this staff had clearly reached the level of a pinnacle king. The second pinnacle king had arrived. He was already unable to resist a single peak king, let alone 2 peak kings. Moreover, there were at least 10 kings eyeing this star covetously. Before he could react, he suddenly felt his heart palpitate. A large spear pierced out from the side, piercing through the air, heading straight for his chest. Before the spear arrived, he could already smell a strong aura of death. The third Pinnacle King. The two Pinnacle Kings targeted Su Zimo and the monkey respectively. Their attacks were sharp and filled with killing intent. If they could not withstand this attack, both of them would die on the spot, let alone escape. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were on the verge of death. The monkey had yet to recover from its injuries and was completely helpless against the attacks of the Pinnacle Kings. Even so, it still released its bloodline and its eyes were filled with battle intent. Against the Pinnacle Kings, the monkey was still fearless and roared loudly. Although the two of them were severely injured, they managed to find a gap in the encirclement of three Peak Kings and escaped with their lives. Blocking the attacks of three Peak Kings in succession took a huge toll on Su Zimo. In those 2 breaths, Su Zimo had released almost all his trump cards. Even his essence spirit could not withstand it, and he felt a sense of weakness. Even after escaping into the spatial tunnel, Su Zimo knew that the danger was not over yet. He endured the feeling of weakness and pulled himself together. Swallowing an immortal elixir, he activated his essence spirit once more and released many mystic abilities and secret techniques such as ethereal wings, tempest wings, rock wings, and others. Su Zimo carried the monkey on his back, and the two of them transformed into a streak of golden light that sped through the spatial tunnel. It's actually the creation Qinglian? And it's a grade 12 one. When the Red Sea Monkey King saw the two of them escaping through the dimensional tunnel, its eyes shone with excitement as it murmured softly. It seemed that this time, not only could he make use of this opportunity to make trouble for the Sanguine Ape lineage, but he could also obtain a peerless treasure. At that moment, the remaining dozen or so kings also descended. Damn it, we didn't even have time to seal the surrounding space and that brat escaped. A Monkey King gritted his teeth. The Red Sea Monkey King's original plan was for the other kings to work together to seal the space and block all exits for Su Zimo and the monkey. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo sensed danger and wanted to escape immediately. Therefore, the Red Sea Monkey King decisively attacked. The Red Sea Monkey King released his yin-yang eyes again to check. He sneered and said, "This brat can't escape from me. Everyone follow me." The Red Sea Monkey King broke through the void and led the other Monkey Kings into the spatial tunnel to chase after them. Su Zimo carried the monkey on his back and sped through the spatial tunnel at full speed. At the same time, the rank 12 creation Qinglian was also rapidly healing his injuries. His injuries were not serious. However, Monkey was in a terrible mental state and was close to dying. If he could not treat his injuries in time, he might not be able to last long. As Su Zimo rushed, he injected wisps of life force into Monkey's body. A moment later, Su Zimo sensed something and could not help but turn back with a grim expression. He'd already noticed that a strand of killing intent had surged out from behind him, and it was approaching swiftly. Could it be those kings earlier on? Su Zimo's heart sank to the bottom. If he could not shake off the group of Monkey Kings chasing after him, he would not be able to last long. Even in his peak condition, his speed might not be comparable to a peak king. Furthermore, he was injured, his essence spirit was weak, and he was carrying someone on his back. Fufu. Right then, a series of laughter sounded from behind with a hint of hatred and mockery. "Little beast, you can't escape." As though he did not hear anything, Su Zimo continued running without stopping. "First, toss me down and leave by yourself, cough, cough." Monkey had just opened his mouth when he coughed out fresh blood that splattered onto Su Zimo's clothes with a hint of warmth. Su Zimo remained silent. "First, I can't make it anymore. If you carry me, we won't be able to escape." Monkey's head drooped weakly on Su Zimo's shoulder. His voice was weak and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Su Zimo's eyes were bloodshot as he hollered, "We won't die. We have to live well. We still have to look for the tiger, Ching Ching, and the others. At that time, the 7 of us will gather and drink to our heart's content." At the mention of the tiger and Ching Ching, Monkey's eyes shone brightly and he seemed to be in better spirits. Monkey no longer spoke, as though he had lost all his strength. His short breaths were filled with a strong stench of blood. Monkey. As though he wanted Monkey to perk himself up, Su Zimo suddenly laughed and said loudly, "I thought of something. Back in Songlang Mountain Range, you carried me on your back and fled the entire way when I was hunted down by the group of people from Joyful Clan." After a slight pause, Su Zimo said, "Today, it's my turn to carry you." Scenes from back then flashed past Monkey's eyes. When he heard Su Zimo's words, his eyes gradually moistened. He knew that no matter what happened, Su Zimo would not abandon him, even if it meant death. Chapter 3002. Bro, where are you going now? Monkey asked with a weak voice. I haven't thought about it yet. Su Zimo was thinking of countermeasures as he fled. Wu Dao's true body was currently cultivating in seclusion in hell, and his two true bodies had long lost contact. There was no way he could count on them. If the two of them could rush to the vast wilderness, they would naturally be able to resolve the crisis. However, this place was too far away from the vast wilderness. Given his speed, it would take dozens of days even if he rushed day and night. Furthermore, the Monkey Kings were in hot pursuit. At this rate, the two of them would not be able to last more than a day. How about cough cough? Monkey had just opened his mouth when he coughed out blood once more. He panted heavily before raising his finger and pointing in a direction. Go there. What's there? Su Zimo asked instinctively. I don't know. Monkey's breathing was weak and his voice was like a mosquito. Su Zimo hesitated for a moment before changing his trajectory and speeding in the direction Monkey pointed. Since he could not think of a better countermeasure at the moment, he might as well follow Monkey's advice and head over to take a look. Perhaps there might be a turn for the better. As Su Zimo sprinted, he channeled pure vitality into Monkey's body. After resting on Su Zimo's back for a moment, Monkey seemed to have recovered some strength and said, Back when I entered the true self realm and condensed my Dao fruit, I awakened the bloodline of the full-armed blood ape. The moment I awakened my bloodline, I sensed that something in this direction seemed to have established a faint connection with my bloodline. However, my cultivation realm was too low and the blood ape world was monitored by the monkeys. I didn't have a chance to leave. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Could there be an opportunity in that direction that could allow Monkey to completely awaken the full-armed blood ape bloodline? If it were any other time, that would naturally be a huge blessing. However, the two of them were being chased by a group of Monkey Kings and were in a precarious situation. Even if they managed to find such an opportunity, it was hard to predict whether it would be a blessing or a curse. Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks and turned back to take a look. Although he could not see the Monkey Kings in his line of sight, the killing intent behind him was still closing in like a shadow. I still can't shake off these monkeys. Su Zimo frowned. Monkey said, Big brother, the escape technique you just released should involve yin and yang. As for the Horse Monkey King that was chasing after our leader, it was the Red Sea Monkey King. It has the bloodline of the Red-Bone Horse Monkey and is proficient in both yin and yang. Maybe his yin-yang eyes saw through your escape technique. Su Zimo nodded secretly. In the 3,000 worlds, there were tens of thousands of races. There were countless divine abilities and secret arts that countered each other. Although the Tai Yin-Yang escape art was powerful and could even tear open the void to leave the battlefield, it was not invulnerable. There were always some powerful and mysterious methods that could break it. His cultivation level was still too low. If he could take another step forward, perhaps he could try to fight with his life on the line. With his current cultivation level, he could break through to the Grotto Heaven realm at any time. However, breaking through this great realm was no small matter. He could not be disturbed in any way, nor could he succeed in a short period of time. He was injured and was being pursued by a group of Monkey Kings. There was no chance for him to break through to the Grotto Heaven realm. The two of them fled the entire way. As time passed by, the killing intent behind them closed in and became clearer. About half a day later, Su Zimo turned back and could vaguely make out a few figures. The leader was the Red Sea Monkey King that Monkey mentioned. Su Zimo had a grim expression. If this continued, the two of them would be caught in less than half a day. Right then,
A massive devouring power suddenly appeared from the front. Su Zimo focused his gaze and stopped in his tracks hurriedly, his heart skipping a beat. Right in front of the two of them, a gigantic black hole appeared in the spatial tunnel. It emitted a sinister and terrifying aura, as though it wanted to devour and kill everything in the world. Su Zimo was about to change directions and circle around the black hole when Monkey suddenly said, "That feeling has been cut off." Su Zimo was slightly stunned. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo raised his head once more and glared at the black hole before him with a flickering gaze. Could it be? The thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, this thought was way too crazy and there was a high chance that the two of them would not be able to return. Could it be inside? Monkey asked softly as he thought of this possibility as well. Both of them thought of the same thing. However, it was a black hole in the cosmos after all. When Su Zimo ascended, he had personally experienced the terror of a black hole in the cosmos and had a lingering fear. Once an immortal king expert was trapped within, it would be difficult for them to escape and they would most likely die. If there was another world within the black hole in the cosmos, the two of them might have a chance of survival. However, if this was a true black hole in the cosmos, the two of them would definitely die if they barged in. "You two beasts, why aren't you running anymore?" The Red Sea Monkey King's voice approached with a hint of mockery. "So, there's no path ahead. Ha! Let's take a gamble." A look of determination flashed through Su Zimo's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "We won't be able to last much longer even if we continue running. Let's charge in and take a look. Even if we die, we'll die together." "Alright." The Monkey King agreed. Su Zimo took a deep breath and charged toward the black hole with the Monkey King on his back. Soon, they were swallowed by the black hole and disappeared. The Red Sea Monkey King was enraged when he saw this. He wanted to capture the two of them alive, but he didn't expect the two of them to be so resolute as to charge into the black hole in the cosmos. He couldn't stop them in time. The Red Sea Monkey King caught up and stopped. He looked at the black hole in the cosmos with a gloomy expression. Another Pinnacle King said, "Even with our cultivation, we don't dare to step in. Those two true spirits will definitely be annihilated if they barge in. It's just a pity for that rank 12 creation realm Qinglian." The third Pinnacle King smacked his lips in pity. The Red Sea Monkey King clenched his fists tightly and didn't say a word.